buttons.
Welcome back to Exalted Essence, Crimes of Nature. Last time, a whole lot of preparation, a whole lot of the allies of the team coming in for the 108 Stars collection. Obsidian Shield's former military, um, former command had lingered in death because of their loyalty, and after proving that he was also faithful to them, remembered them, and avenged their memory back on the Isle, sent a detachment of themselves through the underworld all the way from the Blessed Isle to the Far East, where they are now, in order to assist him in his moment of need. Also, it sounds like the ghost of Sinis Lysaea took a jump on the boat as soon as he heard where it was going, because he listened to the final words to him from Repose about seeking vengeance and all the things that Repose would preach to people about the things. Milan desperately sent a bunch of political and diplomatic missives to as many people as possible in the most strategic places possible to beg for everyone to stop for just a little bit, just a little while, because turns out a war strider is being shipped down to Thorns, the second of the war striders, the one that had gone missing and no one had accounted for it. Turns out that's being delivered to the Mask of Winters, and nobody involved wants the Mask of Winters to have a war machine that is unaccounted for, and everybody is not looking in that direction. It is unclear whether or not that is bait, whether or not that jumping it directly would cause some sort of horrible trap to spring, but that's the over there problem for them to investigate, while all the other problems over here are being solved. And it seems that Milan has bought some time to stall the civil war from beginning, because everybody, even the most backstab happy people, are going to be like, I can wait for the stab to happen after we're sure that Thorns isn't going to eat all of us once we start the stabs. It also didn't hurt that the highest member of the Immaculate Faith, the Mouth of Peace, broke her silence and actually spoke directly to the realm itself, and effectively, in as many words, said the first person who starts something while there is something so dangerous across the strait is the person I'm going to sick the peasant mobs into. So that is a pretty huge deterrent, as the Immaculate Faith has a gargantuan amount of soft power, and if it comes down to it, a hell of a lot of hard power on the Isle. In the meantime, Koi Invictus came over to help the Geomancy. Bismuth Maw has arrived to the war camp to help with planning and assembly of the troops and movements in and examination of the area. Sybil and Guan have shown up as part of the logistics train in order to provide supplies and are just kind of hanging around on the edges, not announcing who or what they are to anybody else. The detachments and delegations from other areas have all sent in what they can to supply. The uh, the Gixa was summoned from the underworld, and a lot of information was gotten out of the little dork, before dismissing them back to Malpheus. And the biggest information, probably, was from Flowing River, who, to many people's surprise, upon being recalled to heaven for a quick debrief and then a return back to the surface to continue assignment under new orders, actually snuck into the, well, for the sake of clarity out of character, he snuck into the Forbidden Manse of Ivy, the place where all of the sidereals who work for the Bureau of Secrets keep all of their information and their records. It's a giant records facility of basically everything, with varying degrees of, you can't read this, to this letter will literally incinerate your eyeballs if you so much as look at it when it's in its envelope level of seal. And very carefully tried to get information about the Weaver. And after getting some information about the Weavers in life back in the First Age, and piecing together some other information that had been assembled from both the actions of the party and what was available in heaven that they could not have known, has figured out that the Weaver's end goal in this has never been storming heaven. That has been fairly clear for a long time that the Weaver has no interest in that and would actively be disinterested in it, and is using Tyrant for something. The answer has finally come that he is using Tyrant to assemble what Tyrant is going to be aiming the energy. A Tyrant wants to aim all of this energy going into the manse in the underworld up to the gates of heaven to blow it open and, charge in and do what he wants to do. The Weaver wants to use this energy most likely to solve his issues with creating an elemental of wood that is aligned with the underworld in the way that he deems fit. He wants to recreate the cycle of 5 elements in a way that he personally controls, and then spread it through the underworld, and then from there to creation. And it's sounding like he's actually got a dangerously close to practical idea. And it just needed a whole lot of energy from all sorts of places and very strange occult matrices to get it all lined up. And oh look, when you have a Abyssal running around doing shit for you, it's easy to set that up quietly in the shadows. So it seems that he is relatively close to having his prototype of a whatever you want to call it, a void elemental, a cancer elemental, an elemental that embodies death that does not give life back. Decay does not exist. Life that consumes and does not relinquish it upon the cycle of death reincarnating. Just stasis instead of dynamism in terms of the place of wood in the cycle of 5 elements. Of course, upon hearing that, Repose immediately shifted into absolute total war footing, and sports territory was engaged. Yeah. Entropic elemental, there are many words that one can take for this. But I believe that catches us up to the current state, where it is kind of last call before we go down into the underworld and begin the planning and for moving down there.
I can't think of another way to repair piling something that I'm never gonna see before. So
There was a thought of a thing that I wanted to do with Obsidian. I forgot to mention it to you off screen, so I'm just gonna throw it out there right now.
Sure.
Obsidian would attempt to find out of all of the various. You know what? Actually, we just need a crafter that's like godlike in a way. So he just goes to Sybil.
Sybil is just busy at work. Well, busy at work in her own way, which doesn't look like work unless you look very closely. She is keeping a very meticulous eye on the entire encampment while she is doing her guard duty for Juan, who is bustling around making sure everyone has what they need, slipping supplies in to assist the efforts, checking out his own security detail around the entire place, which is to say he has eyeballs in everywhere. But when Obsidian approaches, Sybil looks up and just kind of gives a nod. Hey, what's up?
He immediately and wordlessly hands her a diagram, and on that diagram is more or less something that is like detailing the clothes that a leader of a platoon would wear.
1 second.
From like he is handing her his interpretation of his uniform from when he was in the army.
She takes maybe 2 seconds glance at it. Catholic Winglord uniform?
He nods. Correct.
She kind of looks over her shoulder back into the supplies, kind of pops open a crate and looks it over. I think I got the right silks for that. Definitely have the metals for it. Do you need any personalized detailing, or you think you're good with this? She just holds up the sketch.
As close as you can get to that.
Uh,
Because again, the sketch
mhm.
is personalized already.
Yeah, okay. She nods and let us. I mean, she's a.
Also,
Mhm.
like to better describe this, it is like the you know the formal wear and all, not the formal, you know what I mean.
Yeah, the parade armor.
But it is designed in such a way to wear over his normal armor and all that.
Yeah, it is. It is the ornamental parade armor version, but it is designed to go with the armors that she already made you. So she's actually in quite excellent position to do this. So yeah, I'm not even gonna have her roll. She just kind of rubs her hands together. There is a very soft glow around them as you can tell that she's using some sort of, sun trick before she reaches into the box, takes out a bolt of silk, stretches it out kind of to eyeballs it, stretches it out another couple of inches, slices it down with the like a chop with one hand, and begins to fold it like you would fold paper origami, and just kind of somewhere between folding origami and kneading a piece of bread, this single piece of cloth without any stitching begins to take the form of a mantle and a torso, and then the plated skirt holding parts. Like, it is fascinating to watch how she is working, because nothing that you can see tells you that this should not be possible. She's just making it look so completely natural. Like, yeah, of course you could do this with fabric. You could just kind of squish it and then mold it into a shape like clay.
Sorry, something about you can just squish it.
Yeah. But she holds it up to you, gives it an eyeball, reaches back in the crate, starts pulling out plates of steel, and again, just like literally grabs a billet of steel, maybe the size of her arm, and just kind of just pinches off a part of it like clay, rolls it together between her hands, and puts it onto the skirt for the plated armor part, and then just starts tapping along the edges, and rivets just show up where she touches to drive it into the material. And you just see her continue to effectively, masterfully create something that should take, weeks of man hours and labor in maybe about 5 minutes with her bare hands.
Souls.
Of course, she is doing this she is doing this carefully. She is behind the Duchess. She waits until everybody is all busy. She's like making sure no one else is watching, and is just kind of quietly and subtly doing this rather than making a whole song and dance out of it. And then after a short while, she just kind of hands the pieces of the armor over to you. They should be able to. Oh wait, hang on. And then she just taps a couple of parts, like on the sides of your waist, along your collarbone, on your armor, and little tiny attachment points just kind of pop up. Yeah, there we go. Okay, now that should be more secure to hang on your armor like that.
Fantastic. It looks perfect. Uh, I owe you. I hand her some money.
She just kind of takes it. I mean, if this is purely an obligation to make you feel better, sure, but like if you need this, she just kind of gestures to hold it back to him.
Well, for all intents and purposes, this is more of a personal thing. I will. I'll be meeting some old friends and would like to look my best.
Oh, yeah, sure, okay. She just kind of pockets the money a moment. I do have one question for you and yours. Guan and I are planning on going down there on our own, just to keep an eye on things. We heard that there's something pretty big down there. This is going to be something that I expect is going to be a question you relay to the rest of them. Scale of 1 to yes. How okay are you with us stepping in if things get bad and I get loud?
This is a question to Obsidian
Yeah, Obsidian, and then through Obsidian, rest of Hearth.
Yes.
Because she is acknowledging this is an everybody input situation, but you're the one in front of me.
If I die, I die. That's Yank's position on it.
Basically, she does not want to do big dumb solar shit without consulting you because she's had some growth. She understands, you know what, I should probably consult the people I'm thinking I'm helping.
I was kind of hoping she would go loud. Actually, you know what? Are you?
So this would
Hmm?
be the initial question to Obsidian. He would answer with, "Well, in my opinion, if things look like they're going south and we're not able to handle the situation, I would hope that you would step in and do whatever you would need to
Yeah.
make sure that gestures at everything, you know, the front doesn't fall off."
Of course, I mean, that was the idea, but I also realized that it is polite to ask ahead of time
Like,
at this point.
so like, meanwhile, where Repose activated and warmed up has been attending, various bits of planning and preamble. He has been making conspicuous, audible, while visible to birds notes of, which things are too dangerous and thus, worth any mortal assets keeping away from, and just occasionally noting, would that anyone more capable were present of confronting such a thing.
But yes,
You actually get the sensation of the birds rolling their eyes at you at one point, but just very much like, yeah, okay, thank you.
Angler responds, "Ask me when the sun's up. I'm busy."
well, no, yeah, this is even before
Mhm.
relaying this to everyone.
Right.
Would be Obsidian's immediate response of just, but also, I know how important. How to say this? The most you can without I would say without revealing yourself. I don't care. You already know this.
And I don't either, but she actually leans in. So a couple of nights ago, Guan and I actually talked. If we actually have to come to it, we are willing to burn our identities and get the hell out of this region in order to get this sealed. This might be the last time we talk after all of this, if we need to skedaddle to stay ahead of the whole "thank you, but we still are obligated to look like we're trying to kill you" response from heaven. Of course, I actually don't know how they're going to respond to this. This is all new territory even for us. But this is a lot, I'll be honest. It's certainly the first time in how long has it been?
There's an actual note of, this is Obsidian actually pausing
Yeah.
for thought. Obsidian using his whole one brain cell.
Yeah, but she's just kind of muttering to herself. It's like, what, 300, 400 years since I've actually had to, do a serious flex? Has it been that long? I feel like it's been shorter than... She's just, again, kind of muttering to herself at this point.
I guess, yeah, that's the bullet point of it all. I'm always in the opinion of do what needs to be done to protect others. So that's my same opinion of answer to that. But in the morning, I will raise the question to the rest of my mates, and they'll probably stop by and relay their answers, or we'll figure out a way to tell you one way or another.
Just yell at a bird and I'm sure it'll get back to us.
Okay. Oh, I'm a sneeze. Hold on. Uh-oh.
And that's how Obsidian set the tent on fire.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
That's how the obsidian shield fucking died.
See, Shield tried to hold in a sneeze and not be improper. Oh no.
You hate to see it.
Explosion.
I don't feel that there's much more.
Yeah,
to
no,
that
that was about all.
I actually did want to talk with Sybil about something.
Sure, yeah.
Sybil was the one who made my breastplate, right?
Yes, she was.
So, my breastplate's only come up once, so I wanted to ask questions about it.
Yeah, that was one of the drop balls of
Oh!
mine. I apologize.
Yep.
So, and yes, that is also the case for yours as well, Obsidian. Unless that was...
Well, you mean my armor? Or
Yeah,
don't
your
worry.
armor.
Okay, cool. I had a different thing.
Okay.
I've been meaning to do this, and Pride Boy, thank you, has actually reminded me of something else. But I will wait for you to do your thing first.
So, Milan's gonna, as Obsidian's walking out of wherever Sybil is, Milan is walking in, arms full of his armor and a bunch of canisters of anti-Fae grenades. Hey, Sybil, you got... Oh, excuse me, Obsidian. Hey, Sybil, you got a sec?
She actually looks over your shoulder. Oh, that's clever. Yeah, yeah, sorry. She, like, again, she's just kind of caught, like, staring at the craftsmanship and just going, why did I never think of something like that? Dang it. And then shakes herself about it. Yeah, no, how do I help you?
Okay, so, first off, how up to date are you on everything?
Well, considering my husband is Guan, I would consider it to be pretty up to date.
Okay, so you know about the Fae army I sent down there.
We don't know how it went, but we know you sent one.
And that's why I'm here. Loud clatter as I drop the armor and the grenades onto a table. So, we don't know what happens, and I can't rule out the fact that there's going to be some lingering Fae. Well, you know what.
I mean, hey, if they survive in the underworld for that long, I almost kind of respect them enough to leave them alone, but I get where you're coming from.
Well, it's not that, but I'm dropping the name, Wesker's name.
Weaver.
Weaver, and would I know that Weaver... I know that Weaver makes stuff.
Yeah, Repose would have given you the whole rundown
Yeah.
at this point.
Yes.
I have handed Weaver a bunch of Fae, and I can't rule out the fact that he's going to pull some nonsense with the outside.
Just kind of pulls a face. Ugh, I didn't really think about that. Ugh, yeah, that could get ugly.
I need your help coming up with a countermeasure, and I need to be the one to do it because it was my idea to send the Fae down there. I have these, holding up the canisters. Give me a sec. My brain just completely dropped the name of my good friend Sonabose's character. I'm sorry. Yang! Yang!
Strike, everyone's friend.
Yang made these for our first expedition into the wild. They're pressurized canisters of rust. You just pop this pin out, throw it, and after about a second, it violently erupts.
Yeah, I mean, just cloud of iron flakes will be a hell of a way of taking care of any Raksha that isn't able to make a blade of armor against it. Man, if they decided to have lungs, they were gonna have a real bad time regretting that decision, huh? You used these before? Wait, no, of course you have. You went into the pocket, didn't you? How well did they work?
Well, I punched one into the mouth of one of the Weaver's creations.
And what did it do, actually?
Blew off half of its head. And
that's not surprising. So,
yeah.
Metaphysically, there's something here that we can work with. Iron, well, honestly speaking, I'm not entirely sure why it's iron specifically that works against the Fae. There's a lot of different theories about it, but the ultimate thing that it comes down to is that iron, for whatever reason, is the expression of Earth that is most effective at being Earth against the wild. Stability. It's the rock. It is something that will calcify them into a single form and then make them fall to pieces because they hate it. Yeah, they just hate it like that. The underworld itself, theoretically speaking, is not like Earth, but is almost in its own way an opposite of the wild in the sense that it doesn't like things changing. It really doesn't like things being malleable. You kind of have to bleed on it, like literally, to make it do stuff. So I'm not sure, because like in theory, if you send the Fae down there, I wouldn't have been surprised if they popped like popcorn. But from the sounds of things, we're worried about maybe they stick around or the Weaver picks them up and they do some awful stuff with them. But it's kind of like balancing a handful of fire dust in one hand and a lit torch in the other one. If you get the two together, they're gonna blow up. You can use that, but it's still gonna blow up.
Which comes to my idea. I want to blow him up.
Straight to the point, are we? Let's go. All right.
So my first thought was, well, riveting these canisters to my armor, but that might hurt me if I set that off.
She kind of eyeballs you like, no, not. I wouldn't, not you.
I do want to keep all my fingers.
Yeah, no, not you. Maybe your brothers. Maybe Repose, maybe you. She says, gesturing over to Obsidian. Not you.
Obsidian,
So-
I don't think he's in the room anymore, but understood.
Oh, I thought you were still. Okay, yeah, never mind.
She says that right as Obsidian has walked out the door.
Or like gestures out the door to say maybe Obsidian. Yeah.
Which brings me to my armor. The only time it's ever done anything was when we were in the wild pocket, and I was defending. I had the idea if I assert that creation was here, then that would give me an edge over the Fae, and that did something.
She kind of stares. Alright, this is important. Were you ever taught about wild shaping when you went to that sorcery college? Like the concept or anything? She's like hiding excitement.
I think I got a B on that test. That I had to improvise.
I was gonna get really excited if you found that out from first principles and didn't grow like 3 heads and a couple of extra teeth. But yeah, go on.
So, in asserting that there was a road there, because I know my maps, activated the armor. Excuse me?
I said, well, I guess you still know maps.
I do know maps.
You know maps, you don't have an internal sense
also,
of direction.
at that point, I had not given up my sense of direction.
Well, no, that's why I had said new.
Yeah. Oh, yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, I want to see what more I can work with this artifact to get it to do. If I could make this armor one of creation's weapons against the Fae.
She's deep in thought for a few minutes. Not a few minutes, few moments.
Few
You
hours.
can actually see the sigil for dawn flicker on her forehead for a brief moment, as it is clear that she is actually putting a lot of thought into this in a very brief span of time.
Just gonna hold the armor up in front of the sigil. No one's looking.
So one of the ways creation got expanded back in the First Age, and as part of the recovery from the contagion, was the establishment of trade networks and roads. The pattern of goods and services and trust being brought around in a cycle and just kind of wearing down ruts in creation pushed back the wild. How much to what extent that is necessary for expanding or stabilizing it that's not my thing. I make stuff and I punch stuff. I don't do that. But roads as a symbol. She's mumbling to herself. Roads, connections, Safe travel through unknown territory. Creation of roads to stabilize the unknown into the known. Feel like I could work with that. So when you say weapon, what kind of weapon are you thinking?
Well, first I had the explosive idea, but that might not be healthy for me.
I mean, yeah, like strapping explosives to yourself and going to, give things a big ol' hug is the usual sort of thing I do, and I would not. It's a heck of a lot of fun, but I don't think you would walk away nearly as happy as I would.
Well, roads are always the connection between communities and cultures, and well, our hearth is maybe something I could do to build roads between me and my hearthmates to protect us.
She just snaps her fingers. Got it. Although, this is going to rely on you as much as it's going to rely on me, right? Because this artifact's bonded to you at this point, so it's only going to listen to me a little bit. I made it, but you own it.
Oh, shit. Cracks knuckles.
Alright. She cracks her knuckles as well, kind of wiggling her fingers. Alright, so connections between your hearthmates.
Don't make a Keyblade, Sybil. I beg of you.
I'm sorry, did you also just see in chat Milan Porter Bridges?
Yes.
I don't know
I did.
anything about that one either.
I wasn't thinking of a Keyblade, but now I am, Sana. But I'm not gonna do it. Alright,
This is payback for me for getting Yang's name.
yes. Milan, roll me specifically Fortitude Sagacity.
Mental image of Milan calling him Yang. My dearest brother, Yong.
8 successes.
Alright, and let us see what Sybil can do with that. Will this activate the attunement immediately? Yes! She says, okay, this is very important. Close your eyes, try to feel the flow of the essence through your armor and where it is naturally going, and as soon as it starts going to a different place, try and open up a connection for it. It's hard to just...
Okay, yeah, I've done that.
She's like tapping her fingers. I keep forgetting what it is that I can do and what other people can do. I don't usually talk shop with other people.
No, I got it. I'm starting to open connections between the flow. I'm very good with roads.
The second request: hold still and grit your teeth.
What?
Poof! And she just palm strikes you straight in the sternum. And as you just are recoiling, as the air is leaving your lungs, you feel the essence spreading through your armor alarmedly, and you feel the essence leave your armor, extending out through the air, and you are desperately casting it out, letting it go, right? Finding that connection, and then all of a sudden, just you pop into existence next to Obsidian.
What?
And distantly, it worked!
Hi, Obsidian!
Obsidian just frantically like looking around.
You now have an attunement that the first time you take lethal damage in a fight, you can teleport next to one of your hearthmates. Just, oh no, get me out of here, somebody help!
Okay, I got a cool move. That's gonna work. Whew. Give me a sec.
You good? You good, my dude?
Yeah, good.
Sybil
So,
jog.
I
you can
saw
see-
stars there for a bit.
Sybil, you can see Sybil jogging up through a crowd that is mildly confused, but everybody's just assuming it's Exalt stuff. Wow, I'm okay. Hold up your hands. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Okay. Wiggle your toes. Still feel like 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Any organs feel out of place, painful, missing, empty space, too much, bloated? Any itching?
Feel kind of hungry.
Do you have too few organs? Too many organs?
Let me check. Yeah. 1 spleen, 3 kidneys. Yeah. Bladder. Sorry, that joke.
Is that a
Nah,
mixed
okay, yeah, it looks
adept,
like you're
3
in good
kidneys?
shape. Looks like the connections in your armor opened up. Didn't really expect it to take this method, but in hindsight, yeah, no, this makes total sense. If it's a road-based connection protection artifact in a group of Hearthblood, a group of Dragonbloods, yeah, it's gonna work on Hearth connections. Why would I?
Hearthbloods.
Why? Yeah, why wouldn't I think of that? She's just kind of muttering to herself, and now just kind of almost verbally taking notes on just like, the things to consider for later if she's doing other things. Of course it would do this.
I've got an idea. How long before this recharges?
What's the cooldown on my armor?
She thinks for a moment and then kind of taps the armor across your collarbone on the sternum where she hit you, which you realize now that you feel no pain. She somehow pulled the punch at the exact last moment, but tricked your body into thinking it was a dangerous blow. You're not sure how, but wow, okay.
Soldiers.
Let's see here. Probably when the pain and the shock wear off.
Okay. Deep breath. Give me a moment.
So out of character once per fight. But narratively, it's like it's the
Yeah.
first time you have a real like, oh god reaction.
Okay, I have an idea. Throw my armor around obsidian shield. Do it again. And I'm going to think really hard about Yang. I want to see if I can pull someone along with me. This is Milan getting creative.
Sybil just kind of stares. Hey, are you okay with this? She says, pointing to Obsidian.
What is happening?
I think he wants me to punch him, so it sees if it can work again, and you can go to. Are you trying to think of a specific target or what? Are you trying to see if you can?
Yeah.
kill two people?
I'm thinking of Yang. See if I can direct it.
She turns back to Obsidian with just kind of a shrug of like, I mean, I will if you're okay with it.
What is happening?
Look, he asked me.
There's just intense confusion from Obsidian.
He asked me to do a tune-up on his armor, and I awoke some of the latent abilities within the artifact's essence, and now Milan is a little excited about it.
I got teleport armor.
Basically, when his life is threatened, it will reactively try to pull him towards one of you if you are anywhere near Hearth connection range, however that works.
You just get like still kind of confused nod from Obsidian.
Alright, let me make this simpler. Do you want me to punch you, and are you okay with this potentially getting really weird?
Yes.
I wasn't asking you.
Ma'am, it's already kind of weird.
Yes or no?
Do it.
Alright. Cricks her neck, rolls back a shoulder.
I'm gonna roll. Hold up. Yeah, I'm gonna roll fortitude and physique. Yes, that's the one.
Yeah.
And Darren, this is up to you on whether or not this works. I want this to be funny.
I had to think about it for a moment, but I made no decision. I want to see how Obsidian rolls, though. Okay, so she pulls her punch considerably less when striking towards Obsidian. However, Obsidian is able to brace hard enough that it is, instead of a, knock you to the moon kind of hit, it is air quotes, just a, oh my god, ow, and a kind of check for bruised ribs moment as, where'd Milan go? As Obsidian and Sybil are just kind of looking at each other, as Sybil is just kind of shaking her hand lightly, just like, dang, wow. You've really got a build.
I'm quite tough. Anyway, where'd he go?
Well, theoretically, whoever he was thinking of should have showed up next to. And then, what is Yang doing right at this exact moment?
Probably reading documentation about war striders.
All right, so as Yang is back at camp finishing up studying War Strider documentation, Milan pops into existence underneath the stack of books that you are sifting through.
Woo! It works. Hey, Obsidian it. Oh,
As you bolt up, a book lands on top of your head, like just kind of crushing your head
I
slightly,
think
and just going,
you've invented a
okay.
machine that fucks with my day.
hey Yang, I got teleport armor.
I need to emphasize this thought before it escapes my brain, but the way that you entered the scene just immediately makes me think of you leaving the previous scene as that fucking, oh god, I don't know what streamer it is, but the streamer yelling and then immediately like blipping out of existence. Just, whoop!
That's basically what happens. Is there's not even a big showy essence flare or anything. Milan just stops being there for a second.
So it's a
Yeah,
are you
it's just
doing?
kind of like, if
Why-
anything, there's a pop of air pressure being flowed in where there was a person once.
Oh, is
How
that critical?
did you get here?
I asked Sybil to work on my armor, and she made it so that if I get hurt, my armor takes me to someone in the hearth. Wow, you got a lot of books in here. What are you reading?
Apparently you at this point. By the way, could you get out of my arms?
Sure. Flump.
Hey, I have an idea. Let's
Huh?
do some more stress testing and then smash cut to someone else.
So as Repose is doing the lecturing to the Grey Robes in the private tent, Milan just appears, just kind of falling over from a standing position with a crossbow bolt the size of his arm lodged in the chest. Just thunk! Grey Robes look down, look up to Repose, look back down to Milan.
Hi, we're testing artifact.
One of the Grey Robes looks over to one of the other Grey Robes. 3 Jade Talents if this was the two of them. I'm not taking that bet. That's a free bet. Come on.
That's a lot of money.
That's stocks.
Everything good here? Looks at Repose.
As you arrived at the assembling of the tier list of
Threats.
various threats, a very formal and official sorting procedure involving deep magic.
Cool.
S tier just has a pair of sunglasses.
Yes, sun tier.
I'll take a seat.
One of the Grey Robes helps Milan up and just kind of pulls the half ballista bolt out, noting that in front of it, instead of a metal, stabby, murderous arrowhead, is just a blunted wooden tip.
I'm not spending steel on a prank. Are you kidding me?
It's such a waste. You can't spend steel like that.
Alright, so Before we all trend off and forget, Obsidian, you had a second idea of a thing you wanted to do that popped up when the armor was mentioned.
Okay. I have to imagine this is a thing that has been occurring all over multiple days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine.
No. Like I am saying the thing that I am doing is
Yeah.
occurring over multiple days. As after the sword was finished, since we haven't gotten in combat since the sword was finished, there are many nights of him just sitting down, sword maybe stabbed in the ground, and him sitting in front of it, of just staring at it. Of, but what do you do? Of like, I know you have a name. I gave you the name. You're ringing steel. That's what you do.
Do we have a gimmick?
But what do you do though? As he continues to stare at the sword. Do I like meditate in front of you? How do I how does this work?
Give me a force sagacity roll.
Okay, that's a 6. Okay. Fuck. I hit the wrong thing. I hit the wrong button.
It's all good.
It's all good. Just gotta be good.
So, in a moment that makes you briefly think of your brother Yang, as you are muttering out loud, what is it that you do? At the edges of your hearing, you can't say that the sword is saying it, but you can't say this is a thought entirely of your own. You think in response, well, what do you do? What is it that Obsidian, what is it that you do? The artifact is yours. The artifact works with you. What do you do? And that kind of inspires you to change your thinking of, all right, what does the magic sword do on its own, to what do we do together? How do we complement each other's essence? I helped awaken the spirit within this sword. What does it want to do, and what do we do together? No, it specifically does not talk. It is more an intuitive moment of just like, I'm asking the wrong question. With slight, essence sympathy with the artifact because of the weapon bond. So, the first...
What does Obsidian do? He doesn't kill people, right?
No. That is the kind of primary first nudge, is that this is not going to be a really offensively focused.
Which I figured as much.
Yeah. The second thing that I will say up front is that it is almost certainly going to align with both the name you gave it and the fact that it is a 9-ring sword. It is ringing steel. It's probably going to do with the noise. It's probably going to do with using the rings.
Which I myself also figured out, but I wanted to have this scene of Obsidian staring at the sword, being like, what does it do?
What if it's enchanted so that in the middle of combat, like, it always just manages to catch someone's weapon in the rings, so you can disarm them easily?
So, Obsidian is going, like, thinking on this, and let's say he has that thought, because I've already had this thought.
Yeah, and
he goes up to the sword and, like, takes one of the rings and just, like, doesn't spin it fast, but like gives it a little twist.
It spins for a lot longer than you think it should, and it actually makes, on its own, a rather pleasant musical tone.
Also, let's say that Obsidian is doing this a bit further away from the camp.
Yeah.
He has gone off somewhere to get his thoughts. And at this point, spinning one and having it make some like louder than normal noise that he would expect, he immediately has the thought of, okay, let's go all in. And he takes up the sword, takes it up with his right hand, puts out his left hand, puts the puts the flat of the blade on his left arm, and just swings the sword as in to spin all of the rings at once.
So as you spin the rings, you can tell internally that there is multiple ways that the rings can move and spin, and as you jostle it back and forth, the clanging back and forth, this is almost a musical instrument, but when used in combat without extreme precision, it's the equivalent of smashing your face on a piano. That's the kind of musical noise that comes out, is absolute tonal chaos, is the weapon that hurts the ears of pianists, but it is like universal, just kind of a discordant Now, so the first attunement of this weapon, effectively, as you figure it out, it is going to revolve, someone in the chat already called it, it's kind of the hunting horn. The first one is the simplest, is just the sound of, oh my god, that is the most annoying thing I've ever heard, make it stop. It is not just a taunt, it is a stacking penalty if you ignore the taunt.
So, there's a follow-up to this. Takes note of that. Takes note of the rings making noises as they jostle differently. He takes a stance and starts doing, like, back in his military days, he had katas that he would be trained to do with his sword, and he starts doing one of those just to see what would happen. Something more, structured with the sword.
Give me a force performance roll.
What is my performance? 2. Okay.
Also have a stunt on this.
Okay.
So 2 more dice.
No.
So as you go through the kata, there are brief glimpses as you were going through, because you're doing the kata perfectly. You were just doing it the way that it was drilled into you for years and years and years to do your military drills. It's a combination of the weapon itself does not feel used to them yet, it seems like, but also there is something right on the tantalizing edge of it of sometimes when you strike the kata and you don't know why, you can't narrow down exactly what you're doing differently or what you're thinking or feeling differently. For the split second when you do a kata, it plays it's almost playing a measure of the music that your command used, like basically one of the anthems of your military unit. You can hear snippets of it as you are going through your old military drills. You can't make it consistent, you can't have all of it play, but you can hear it. You can hear it trying to get through. Holy shit. That hard. Holy fuck.
Oh god. Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
Perfect.
Wretched. Hideous.
Perfect.
I'm gonna
Amazing.
paint that on a rock. Give me a minute.
But yeah, that is kind of the hint of the next attunements is, hey, military has music. You were a commander. You know the value of military music. And you have a long history.
All right. That's all I had.
All right. So, with all business settled, this leaves us important choice. of which of the 3 Shadowlands is going to be the one you approach with. There is a pro and con to each one. You don't have full, complete detail on the Underworld yet. You know that the forces of the Vigil are mostly amassed at, let me see, this one. The one on the right, the pro is you're going to be able to reassemble with the Vigil troops much faster. The detachment of War Ghosts, Ancestors, probably even up to Praise and Azar will be coming from over here. The downside is that means that it is going to be very watched, it is going to be very active, it is going to be probably the most predictable route to take, because if anybody is even paying slight attention to the Underworld, they're saying, hey, there's an army coming from the east! So you're going to be part of the main force loudly, and very much having all eyes on you. From the north, the advantage is that it is unexpected. It is from a direction that you already went through in your clown disguises, so they were like, whatever. They went through there, they're not going to go through there again. And also on top of that, what you are aware of the Underworld's topography in the region, you're going to have to cross an Underworld river, and that's no small feat. And that's the downside, is, yeah, it's unexpected, and it's weird, and it's dangerous. That's because it's fucking hard. There is going to be a severe challenge to actually get through, but if you manage it, it is going to give you a huge element of surprise. And from over here, you get the advantage twofold of this is the direction where the reinforcements from the Catholic are coming in smaller numbers than the Vigil numbers. They also are going to have some support from the Northfolk ancestors that are deciding to get involved with this. The downside is that it is a very long way away, and you don't really have good intelligence as to what's in the middle here. You are not sure what you're going to face. I will say up front, even if you pick the North or one of the 2 armies, you will meet up with the other army. It's a matter of which one you get first.
Anyone have any preferences?
Oh, I will also specifically note, this is the Shadowland where Tyrant ambushed you. This is the one where you faced him the first time. Just to give you an idea of where things are.
Way back.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm pro river. We trust our allies to be our allies, and trust ourselves to cause problems for anyone who gets in our way.
Can you list the options again, please?
The North is you are going to you get the element of surprise by coming from an unexpected direction over rough terrain. The downside is that you're going over
and
rough
spooky
terrain.
If only we had somebody that maybe had some sort
Someone
of
who
war
was
skill.
Good
Or
at
boat.
Or
Those
boat.
sort of skeleton mariners.
Because, hey, Loon, don't you have that reshaping the battlefield
Yep.
That's the
charm?
thing I do.
This one from over here is you will meet up with the Catholic Army Detachment and the ancestors from the Northern Folk, and you will have them as a smaller, more stealthy army to approach with as your support. The downside is that you do not know the territory between them and the territory the Fae mapped out, so you have no idea what you're going to be dealing with on the way there. On the right is the Vigil army, which is huge, and it is very visible, and that is the downside, is that, yeah, you're going to have an entire army. Downside, entire army. Everybody's looking that way.
I could mess with the river.
I can mess with the river.
The team
fun.
once again chooses to be a bunch of fucking problems out of nowhere, as I thought.
plan is, for Repose's contribution to the planning, introduce Sharin to Azar and let them bond over righteous violence against the enemies
Okay.
of the world.
I'm gonna need a scene for that, I think. I don't know if it's gonna be now or if it's gonna be when the armies meet up. Actually, I'm gonna ask, do you want to send Shireen to the Shadowland to get with the army, or do you want Shireen in your detached team to go across the river?
Can we take Shirin with us?
Angler's gonna walk in at that moment and say, well, I would say we're gonna not draw that much attention, but... And he is violently glowing at this point.
In
Wherever we
character,
go...
it would be to present Shireen with the options and ultimately give her the
Yes,
call about
yes,
where she
yes.
would most
That
like to
is
serve. But out of
in
character, narrative
Yeah.
force.
Out of character, I want to bring Shirin with us. In character, Malon is going to say, what does she want?
And I will tell you for free, if you give Shireen the option, she would want to go with you because she trusts you the most. And also, you are giving her the opportunity to do a sports with the
It'll cause
people that she
problems.
trusts deeply and looks up to for changing her and saving her life. Of course she's going to go with you. She smuggled herself onto a boat to get with you.
She was waiting for the opportunity to be a part of the team. Now's the time.
All right.
Check
So
all
we're-
of the barrels at the in the supply yard of the camp.
Okay.
Find which one she's been lurking in this whole time.
All right, hang on.
Knocking on multiple barrels until one makes a less hollow noise.
The dice have decreed that is in fact what she was doing. So, as you are going around and going through the supplies, you just start knocking along the barrels from the Jade Orchid Prefecture, just doing a casual round to see before you send a message. And after the third or fourth, a couple more down the line, like maybe 15 feet or so, you see the lid just kind of pop up on one, and she pokes her head out with kind of a sad expression of just like, you know, I thought you wouldn't think of doing this again because you wouldn't expect me to have done this again, because sometimes people don't expect people to do the same plan twice because they think that they're going to be more adaptive, and am I in trouble?
No. We're divvying up assignments for who's going to go with what team for the actual assault.
She
You
blinks.
saved me the work of sending a letter. It would take a while for a runner to make the full trip, and I cannot begin to describe the difficulties of sending a, whispering, mouthing without speaking it pigeon,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that is not enough to prevent Moat from kind of catching the vibe and perking up and be like, more
Snacks?
drink.
Snacks?
Talking
Blackbird?
snack.
She stares for a moment, kind of in a slight incomprehension of, wait, subtext sounds like inviting me? Wait, no, that can't be. Wait, what? No, but yes? As just a flickering across her face as she kind of emerges from barrel, slips out, puts lid back on, before, picking a bit of, pickled radish off one of her robes and putting it back in the barrel very gently. So wait. You were intending to invite me?
I mean, if you wanted to come.
Yes, I would be interested.
Great. So here's the plan. What we're thinking. Milan pulls out map.
She, still kind of in a visible state of disbelief, kind of shuffles over to look over the map.
Starts talking about okay, so main army going to be assaulting from here. We have reinforcements coming from the west. We were thinking about striking from the north. Now that does mean we're going to have to be crossing an underworld river, but I think that's something within all of our capabilities. And the best part is they won't see it coming.
So we will be the flanking force for the two armies that are already doing a pincer maneuver. Yeah. See, that should work. That should work. Unless they've already planned for that in advance, at which point, well, that would be a waste of resources if we didn't walk into it, and if we did walk into it, then we would already tie up to whatever resources they had to the side so they wouldn't move it over to the other armies at the same time. And it would also depend on what they're using for their deployments of that war strike that you mentioned, as well as any of the other underworld that says. And she just actually runs herself out of breath for a moment before having to breathe back in.
Steadying hand is applied.
Exactly.
Thank you.
How much of current events have you managed to overhear and internalize while lurking on the premises?
I had heard that there was going to be support from your family from below, and I had heard that there was going to be a detachment up top that was going to be defending it from any sort of surprise attacks from the above, and make sure that any of the geomantic manipulation was going to be safe. And I was expecting that once I was found that you would have told me to stay here.
Just kind of give a repeat of like the headbutt from the earlier meeting. Just no.
Fuck.
She actually just flinches back a little bit, but also has a tiny smile as she remembers what that came from.
Strange barrel goblin.
She actually kind of looks vaguely offended at being called a goblin, because that's calling her a creature of the wild.
And by conducting things in this manner, we will have time on the road to finish conveying and considering the finer details of what is to be done
She nods.
and what there is to expect. Against an opponent such as this, the Weaver will firmly believe himself to be in an altogether separate and higher class of being than any of us, and that is because by several measures, that is the case.
That only served them so well during the usurpation.
There are only so many ways that gap grants him an advantage. There are others in which it limits him. We can expect in any preliminary encounters that for some span of time, he will be aloof, playful. If he earnestly felt that anything present in this region posed an existential threat to him,
We'd already all be dead.
he
wouldn't
would reach out and do his best to snuff it. Instead, our coming conflict it falls within certain boundaries. And time will be spent fast forward through explaining about the entropy elemental.
Yeah. Which
The hypothesized tumor entity.
Yeah, as this explanation goes on, there are a couple of moments where Shireen actually vocally requests for a break so she can walk off into like maybe 50, 100 yards away from the camp and just start punching a tree and screaming before coming back to
Montage
listen.
of exposition, venting anger, continuing exposition.
The more the explanation goes on, the more she is going from nervous and thankful to no, like a team of wild horses could not stop me from storming this castle, even if it kills me. She has flipped into, I'm doing something about this, even if it kills me.
Now, to that point, we must destroy this thing that he has made. That is the minimum, that is the foundation from which we must begin to measure our success. What we must aspire to do, well, for one, if a good opportunity should present itself for you to wound the opposition, do so. Note that I will define good opportunity as one which you will survive and return from. No amount of inconvenience to our foe is worth trading all that you have yet to do in your life as a servant of the world.
Shift uncomfortably, but nods.
No murdering. Don't do it. You are too young for martyring. Martyring is for centennials, at least. But, more to the point, what we must aspire to do is not only destroy this creature, but seek to, as thoroughly as possible, humiliate and discredit this creature. We must, to the best of our ability, understand how this creature appears to fulfill the goals of our enemy and dismantle it. At the moment, whatever is lurking down there is an object of hope and inspiration. It is driving this ancient specter to rise from millennia of slumber and set to work on something that he hopes will accomplish all that he has sought and failed to achieve for thousands of years. We must make it fail. We must leave him disappointed, distraught, so much so that he will fall back into his torpor for centuries more, such that when he, someday, chooses once again to return, no thought of this returns to his mind. Or if it does, it only occurs in some lessened form as another of his past mistakes.
She nods again. The gravity of these statements now, like, quite literally visibly weighing on her. She's just kind of realizing, oh.
And a further point, detached from the motivations of our adversary, there are many things, since time began, which have thought they could impose themselves on the natural order of the All-Mother, that they would be beyond her ability to seize and tear apart and drag into the harmony of the cycle of life. One can consider that these days there does exist the small contagion, which, while it remains a vicious and terrible illness which calls forth ancient memories of its forebearer, it is no longer the cataclysmic force of destruction that it once was when it was known as great.
She actually
Life
nods.
finds a way.
She nods firmly at that.
Whatever we meet there in its current form will be strange, unknown, resilient, other like general but technical descriptors.
Mm-hmm.
And as we will be the first to confront it, we will face the greatest difficulty, and he just kind of spends a while thinking about the right turn of phrase, and Moat just kind of slides into place and settles down and visibly extends claws and looks excited and waggles tail a little bit. And yeah, Repose just kind of looks to Moat and gives a bit of a pat of the head on the head and just like points. And if, by our work, we prove that whatever this is can be cut, can be made to bleed, can be made to burn, then whoever follows after us, who may have the misfortune of facing this again, it will build on what we have done. And have a better time of it.
We lay down the roads that our grandchildren will walk.
We cast the spark, which lights the conflagration. And Repose will just kind of let the implications of that exact phrasing from him.
Yeah.
Say without saying, like, just, hey, by the way, to be clear, since we're doing this.
There is a flicker of recognition in her eyes, but she does not say anything. She just maintains eye contact with you for longer than she usually does before nodding.
We will have time on the road to prepare and process. There is work to be done.
Thank you for trusting me to help.
Thank you for being where you were needed.
Just immediately goes from the stern, tense posture to just kind of shrugging in, just like, is only what I am made to do. It's a servant of the mumbling.
Yes, the corn top stage.
Yes.
War chanting begins.
All right.
Fight songs in the distance.
Holy shit, thank you, Morgan.
Sport.
Sports.
Sport.
Just hand flapping while chanting sports, sports, sports is the exact mood, yes.
So we are in agreement of
Yes. Shireen is going, and you are heading north.
ford the river, bring Shireen, any other assets that people want to tag in?
I got some oxen.
I don't know. This seems like 3 feet. We should probably cock and float.
If you're all
Ford
in
that
agreement
shit,
for-
not worry.
If you're all in agreement for her going, I have no objections then.
All right.
She's quite capable. You know.
She's not. We'll see how it goes. At this point, we're going.
I would say that before we head out would be the time for explaining and like doing a little prep work for the idea of ghost passenger for when Yang goes into
Yes.
the robot. But the actual performing
Yeah,
of the act
things.
can happen when it is time to go.
Yes. So, the general gist you get is Koi is going to be staying at the camp. Bismuth is going to be going through the West Shadowland. Sybil and Guan are evasive as to which one they're going to. It's likely that they may split up or they may go to the right. It's unclear. It feels like they're going to be eyeballing the situation and seeing which one is going to give the most advantage, and maybe going early or late depending on that.
Yeah, they're the floaters of the group.
Yeah. They are. Let's see, who else will be accounted for? Yeah, everybody else will be just staying topside for now. So that is all the topside assets. Onyx would be available via swamp connections on the river to portage over to the Shadowland pretty easily. And yeah, that is all preparations before I start setting the stage for the trip. Unless you have comment or question.
Yeah, think of anything else? No.
Not got anything.
I think that was it.
I got cut off a bit when we were doing the Shireen thing, but again, does need to be stated, Angler is glowing. That is something that should probably be talked about.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Angler is glowing / not actually dragon blood glowing. It is bioluminescence from not essence charge.
Okay, I
Oh,
was
you
being.
did a bonfire for a bit now. Are you okay?
Can't turn
I
it
was-
off anymore. Like I
Hey,
said,
Angler?
I'm not going to be, subtle anymore. This is just how it is.
Angler, as your brother, I was being polite about this. I didn't want to pry. What is up with gestures up and down?
Remember when we went into the elf lands?
Yeah,
I wanted to be a light to show the way for the rest of us to get to where they needed to be. I was too literal.
all right, Mr. Metaphor, you're up in front in the party.
Yeah. Okay, I need to step out of character for a second because this is the one time I'm going to be metagaming.
Yeah.
It would be better if Angler was not with the group, but this is a don't split the party thing, so he's sticking with the group because it is going to be hard for him to be not seen.
I will say in advance, it's the underworld. Things are weird down there.
There.
It is okay if you are with the group because this is not a stealth mission, air quotes, so much as Repose mentioned earlier, most things don't down there use sight as a secondary thing. It is going to be more obvious of, hey, what's that giant, delicious smelling pile of blood and essence that shouldn't be here, rather than what's that light?
We're also coming from a direction they wouldn't expect, so it's
Yeah.
not like you'd be looking or smelling or whatever in that direction anyway. Okay.
Yeah, it would be
a lot of endemic ghosts have either been conscripted into the force around the manse or scared into backing off so that they don't get dragged in.
Right, and if they have been scared off, it is likely that if they see, a hearth of 6 dragon bloods and
It's just gonna reinforce
whatever else,
that
they're
it
gonna
was
look
the
at that
right
and go,
idea to
"Fuck
back
that."
up.
Fair.
Gonna move even further, thank you.
Also, in response to me as Mr. Metaphor, or rather, Milan's Mr. Metaphor. Hey, remember when some of us thought about being crabs or ducks when we were in there before? That happened. I forgot, and that
Yeah.
was dumb.
Hand on the shoulder. I have a feeling by the end of the day we're going to need that guiding light.
Hand on the shoulder. That's rough, buddy.
Thanks a bunch. Both of you, stop it. Stop it right now.
No pressure.
And hey, remember, we're not here to be martyrs. We're all
To that
coming home.
point, I do think we should all come home, and that would be great. But at the same time, this is it. We're going in to fix this no matter what.
Or die.
if we ever have a situation where it's we keep going or we run away, running away won't help. We got to keep going. I don't want to bring us down, but like this is the we're not turning back.
Sort of punches fist to palm. That's the
Nods.
plan. Yeah, that's the
Nods,
plan.
punch fist to palm.
Yeah, not punch fist palm. It's
Those
easier
neck
than
mu-
writing yes.
those neck muscles sculpted by a lifetime of nodding.
We walk.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting for us to be 15 minutes in, but I knew as soon as we were going over uneven terrain 15 minutes ago, I was like, oh, god damn it, someone's gonna make the joke. God damn it, Loon. God damn it. Anyway, let's do this thing. Stop punching your hands.
No.
Except for you, Shirin. You can do as much as you want. Get pumped up. Go for it.
I wasn't even speaking in character, but yeah, no, she would. So, the trip across the river northwards from the Living Lands is kind of eerily uneventful. It is just kind of the same, mechanically, as any trip you've taken above ground in the past year. There's a lot more gravity to it. Even just the quick flight over as Onyx is being portaged from the river below over the logs and being shoved by Obsidian, Angler, etc. towards the Shadowland, where the promise of more tributary rivers and arteries for Onyx to sail on, because Underworld has a lot of rivers in it. There is just a sense of finality, of, as Angler said, this is it, there's no turning back. You are either going to be coming back successful or you're not coming back. This is the last time you're going to see creation if you don't succeed. As you reach the Shadowland and you wait for nightfall, just staring up towards the sky as the light dims and the sun goes down, waiting for the borderlands to shift to change where you are able to go when you leave the boundaries, as the life slowly, subtly drains out of the land around you, as the stars begin to come out in the sky, as the sun dips below the horizon through the canyon, and just casts a shaft of light down across the land, illuminating the distant spear, the distant nail, the firing slug of the Sword of Creation. There is a strange sense of both peace and terror that settles over the hearth and the crew of the Unbreakable Onyx, and the Grey Robes, and Shireen. This is not the most danger the world has ever been in. That doesn't make this any less scary. You know that you can save the world. Or at least, you can stop this problem. You can make this slice of the world safer. You can solve this specific disaster. It's gonna take a lot of work. It's not guaranteed. But the world's gone through worse. And even if some of you should trip and fall, some of you should get bloodied, staring at the light across creation just gives you a sense that no matter how this goes, even if it goes bad, in a way, it'll all come out right in the end. Even if you're not there to see it, and hopefully you are. In the scheme of things, the world is so much bigger than even what the Weaver dreams of controlling and thinking. And in a sense, that's terrifying. It's far beyond your ability to control. It's far beyond your ability to influence beyond the tiniest pokes and nudges. And a cosmic sneeze or a horrible accident, and there it goes. But you have your brothers, you have your crew, you have your friends, you have your allies, you have the people you are protecting, the people who protect you, people who you rely on, the people who rely on you. That counts for a lot. In fact, in a way, that's all you can really count on. And a lot of people don't really account for how much that's going to get you for. And as the sun sets, and the chill of the underworld settles over your bodies as you turn south, towards the river valley deepening, and across the crest of the far valley, where you can see the tips of the spires of the necromantic manse, you feel like you've got a pretty good shot at this. Alright. Step 1 of the endgame is the travel venture to reach across the hazards of the northern area. This is going to be a 4-phase venture. The first obstacle is to get to the river. I am going to ask for a finesse navigate roll from the primary navigator to get to the river safely.
Well, we're not on the river yet, so I'm probably pretty good overland shit.
Yeah, this is an overland segment. There is enough like saturation in the ground and small tributaries that Onyx is able to not have to be dragged or pushed.
I'm fairly
But it
certain
is-
I have charms for this.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's the crow flies, so I always know the shortest route.
Mhm.
Are we under extreme weather?
No, you actually. Roll me finesse sagacity, for both from both Sunna and Repose, because this is the first time you've really been in the underworld for anything more than a Shadowland or any few minutes.
Your
Alright,
first
so-
time.
Yeah.
Well, alright. Explain it all, Clarissa.
So, Repose knows, offhand, that weather is kind of air quotes in the underworld. Down here, weather is less the maneuverings of elementals and the machinations of gods and the cycles operating as they should, and more big shit happening and everything else has to handle it. Or weird occult energy smacks into each other and creates something that is adjacent to what you would call a weather phenomena up
So
top.
is it
Regular
I-
living weather.
I have a
The dragons stir and rumble in the sky, the pressure of the air subtly shifts, and the old men in the village can feel in their bones that soon the rain will come.
Can I use hardship surviving spirit to just like sort of no cell being in oblivion, basically? Just
Probably.
like, yeah, all right,
So like
sure.
my follow-up
Yes.
from my stunt descriptive text here is undying weather, the old men who once lived in the village feel pain in their bones, and the sky weeps in sympathy.
Yes, that is basically the short version of how it works down here.
The mass aggregate emotion of what has been is the inciting
Ah.
force that
That makes
drives
sense.
the systems of the
Everyone-
world below.
Everyone feels that there should be a storm coming, and so a storm comes.
When this
So
place
no matter how
began,
big of a panic attack we have,
that sky was empty until enough souls had wandered in that they agreed that it should move. And so it did.
You can actually see, and in Repose with a roll that high, could easily point out from this region, so far away as it is, when you look in the direction that normally you would see the Blessed Isles Great Mountain, you see something very different. You see something hanging from the sky. And now that you look at it, it's not really a sky. You can see distinctly, those are not stars. Those are things that are glowing embedded in rock. And as you look off into the distance, there is something. It is almost indescribable in its scope. Some immense glass and porcelain and metal and stone and who knows what else, Leviathan spire or chandelier or rotating lantern or lighthouse, or it's difficult to describe, but it is this great rotating set of dials and light fixtures, and it's almost like a solar calendar scribed on the outside of a pillar that is moving. And then you realize, as Repose is pointing it out and tracking your eyes, it's casting the dead stars on the sky. That is the calendar of Satesh. That is one of the first great works of the dead, is things don't work down here unless there is a cycle of things happening. There has to be a sunrise and a sunset, there's a moonrise and moonset, and there has to be something like the stars to dictate the fates of the dead, or else there's no such concept. And there's nothing down here, and there will never be anything down here. Let's make it. Let's
So-
make it out of our memory.
So yeah, like step one, foundational way to survive doing anything in the underworld is morale,
Welcome to
which
the
is also
darkest-
part of normal survival training. So yeah, that's directly transferable.
So nothing has changed. It's just a little bit more screamy than usual.
Many
If
things have changed, but not in ways that matter.
From Yang's point of, like, from everyone else's point of view, this is a pretty huge paradigm shift of, like, okay, this is, like, actually supernaturally relevant to the point where you can almost feel the darkest dungeon torch meter pop up. To Yang, it's just like, wait, this is just how I'd normally approach things.
Well, all right. This is the one time Yang is going to be like, I'm actually going to think about my assassin training and the
Yep.
things to do, like what happens when you are basically like, deprived of all your senses and then you find yourself in a new location, how to orient yourself quickly and safely.
Yeah,
Not just, well, you found yourself somewhere weird. Don't die.
that is an extremely, as you go through the motions, you feel instinctually correct. Like, this feels not just like, yeah, this is what I should be doing in this situation, but like, no, really. Both the following of your instincts and also this response of, I have no idea where I am, and I need to locate where I am, and I need to maintain safety and calm. You just feel in your bones, yes, this is what I need to do. So you can use As the Crow Flies, which I don't remember precisely. Is that the one that shortens it by one obstacle or gives a success? Or...
Shortest mundane route between where she is and where she wants to be, even if the path is unconventional.
Okay.
So I'm basically minimizing the time we have to do this.
Yeah, so give me the navigate and finesse roll with a stunt.
Stunts 2, right?
Yes.
Probably have like a walking stick that I'm poking around on the ground.
Do you have an excellency?
Yeah, the mechanics part of the text. You may cut corners a number of times equal to your essence rating during a travel venture without consequence.
I didn't write the entirety of it. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we can cut corners 4 times.
Which is the number of steps in this trip. So Yang is going to find ways to make each of these steps shorter by 1 phase interval for all of this trip. So the first roll that you make is not quite enough to meet the threshold to get the first one in one go, but because you are using the charm, I will let you go through with a slight complication.
Sure.
So Yang immediately just starts to feel out how this is working. And through the descriptions that have been given by Repose over the past year, and just immediate intuitive understanding, you can locate the landscape above you pretty easily. It's almost 1-to-1. It's like the hill that you crossed over to get to this Shadowland is the same exact hill. Same grade, same height, same everything. Parentheses, because that hill's been there a while. Anything new, anything dramatically changed, anything that has not stuck in human memory of the ghosts that fall down here is not going to be reflected. So, recent roads, not going to be there. Recent Floods, not going to be there unless they kill people. So, what Yang realizes is you can't rely on anything except well-trodden things that have been here for a long time. And in addition, you can rely on things that used to be there, but there haven't been enough people who have died to let the underworld know it's not there anymore. Which brings you to the realization that this has had some floodplain rising and lowering across the history of this river existing and stabilizing once it was thrown off the top of a cliff. So, Yang, by memory of studying these maps and the establishment of this region as just part of what Yang was doing and looking for herbology and how things would grow, recognizes that there would be a divot where one of the floodplains was that has now been eroded into and is now much more bumpy, hilly terrain and that it would be annoying to cross, but is now a much more straight shot because it's still here in the land of the dead. The complication, unfortunately, is that it is also, because it is in the memories of the people who lived through it, still pretty swampy and still kind of just unpleasant to move through. So, I'm not going to call for a roll on it. I'm just going to note that the terrain is relatively marshy as you are moving through towards the river, and you will be at the river at a relatively marshy point.
And that's the boatswain's problem, not mine.
So, the other problem you rapidly realize down here is that big old calendar in the center, that does not work on creation time. Your internal clock, especially Yang's, and probably Repose's as well, your internal clocks are relatively well tuned to the usual cycles of, circadian rhythm, things like that, if you want to use those terms. That thing in the center is not going at that speed. You can absolutely tell that it hitches and starts and rockets forward and then stops and then stutters, and sometimes is going at the speed it should be, but most of the time it's just kind of going at the vaguest suggestion of, I guess maybe that's close enough. So it is not very long before you realize, oh, I have no idea how much time is passing topside. It doesn't feel like there is a huge disconnect yet, but what should have been a trip that would be less than a day feels like you are nearing the end of the day when you get to the river. Just things feel strange down here in terms of the passage of time and how far things are. So, when you reach the river in the underworld, it is actually a relatively striking sight once you crest over the hills and approach it down in the valley, with Onyx going slowly down the marshes. And at this point, the shoving has kind of changed into lowering anchor and then kind of scooting down without flying down the hill into the river uncontrollably.
I would
ri-
like
Mhm.
to use a charm at this point.
Go right ahead.
We are finally on the river, and not everyone on the boat currently is of the exalt nature.
Yeah.
That's right. It's time for the long con, and actually, considering where we are, the direct counter to many of things. I am looking it up. There we go. Benediction of the Living Ship.
Yeah!
Navigate 5, Essence 3. Verdant Essence transforms the Exalt ship into a blossoming living thing. Commit 2 motes, and whenever characters take recovery scenes aboard the ship, the number required to heal, yada yada yada. This is all a lot of healing right here. Here we go. The ship blossoms with fruit and vegetables. During long voyages, the crew and passengers never have to deal with venture obstacles, from lack of food or diseases from malnourishment. All members will gain a 1 success bonus to resist poison and disease while on board.
So I'm just going to say, as you are going through the marshy terrain, good on you for activating that, because that was going to be the bear trap I was going to spring on the river crossing. But activating Benediction of the Living Ship as Onyx just kind of starts flowing through Essence as Obsidian channels it through the Hearthstone into the Jade and the Wood. First of all, the entire landscape around Onyx changes violently. It is almost a visible recoiling away from Onyx, from the water and the soil and the rock. Just like almost a kind of I mean, the first example I can think of off the top of my head is the blood test in the Thing, where you put in the heated wire and it just jumps away, just like ah. But as the life is established, it doesn't get used to it, but it is less violently spasming and recoiling away from it. It is becoming aware that, okay, this is a thing that is in here. It is leaving a trail as the ship is going that is kind of scabbing over and returning to the way it was, but it is... You are dragging raw elemental life through stagnant water in the land of the dead. So it is causing quite the disruption to the local marshland. And also, again, gets rid of the potential illness that would have struck the mortal members of the crew, because now they are eating healthy food that is not being poisoned by the miasma of the underworld and the stagnation of the water. So, the river itself, as you are coming into the approach, you can tell that the underworld remembers primarily the creation of this river, as the flow of the river is almost a knife gash through the land. It looks like something has stabbed into the bedrock and the soil and just dragged, and water has flooded up like blood should from the wound. The water is foul smelling. It is hard to describe. You almost imagined at first that it would smell like rot, or it would smell like the swamp, or it would smell like any other, stagnant, gross, or any other bog waters that you've smelled. It smells different than that. It's not decay. It's not anything else. It's not even just stagnation and mildew or anything like that. It smells like the air inside of a tomb. If it also had a slow leak into it for a century. It is musty and almost palpably physical in its ability to choke you. This much water is just, again, nearly poisoning the air from how hard it is to breathe without being near or on Onyx. The water itself is cloudy. It is... When the lights from your party hit it, it is somewhere between like a muddy brown and a unsettling, that should not be possible, black. This is like, of all the water you have ever seen in your entire life, this is including Yang and Yang's training with poisons. This is up there on the top 3 things that you would not want to drink with a gun to your head. Whatever this does to the living body, if it's put in it, it's probably really bad.
Not even as a prank. Fuck.
Yeah, no, this isn't even pranks. This isn't even giving somebody tuberculosis as a test of their character. This is just like, nah, man, that's an atrocity.
Right, I did that.
Yeah, man, I remember that. But yeah, the challenge here is going to be a Force Navigate roll from Obsidian once Onyx hits the water, with a 2 dice stunt and 1 automatic success from using Benediction of the Living Ship.
I mean, man, I'm looking through things.
Sure.
Test of character tuberculosis is really funny.
Look, man, I still remember that being one of Yang's establishing character moments, and it's informed me for a while.
You even define from that.
That you are deeply away from the norm when it comes to your moral code and how you deal with problems. You are.
Well,
know,
you
in
died
a-
from disease. You should have been more pious.
So,
I mean, again, in a sense, it is kind of foreshadowing for the god angle Yang took later of forging a divine identity, because that's just how disease worked back then.
so how many dice does Obsidian have to?
10.
All right.
If it's force navigation, that's 10.
Yeah. He's just skimming through to see if there's any charms to do an assist with.
Oh, here we go. I'm not getting any penalties to this, am I?
You have canceled out the penalties with Benediction of the Living Ship.
Noted. Okay, so that one won't apply. Let me just double read this one again.
Mm-hmm.
Does this count as charting a course?
Yes, absolutely it does.
Okay. Immortal Mariner's Advantage, which is commit 1 mote. The Exalt gains 3 success bonus to all mundane sailing tasks, whether charting a course, repairing a leak, organizing a fleet, or sailing through storms.
Yeah, okay, now you have 4 automatic successes and a 2 dice stun.
And I think that's enough. I don't think I need to use the Excellency on top of this.
You can if you want, but not necessary, I would think, unless you get a really terrible roll.
Yeah, if I get really bad roll, well, that will be egg on my face. But anyway, here we go. It was almost a really bad roll if I didn't have those 3 bonus successes.
No, 4, because of the benediction. So
Right.
that is a 7th success. That is a success on the venture with 2 advantages, 2 advantage successes. So everyone piles into Onyx to get into the boat before it jumps into the water. And as soon as it does, there is the brief lurching sensation of horror as you realize that for the split second, as the water recoils out of the way of Onyx, you briefly worry that, oh, is the water just going to go all the way out of the way and not support the boat, and this is just going to fall to the bottom of the bank? Until Onyx and Obsidian channeling essence and just managing the boat and having been through, well, okay, this is a new one for Obsidian, but Obsidian's been through some strange storms. Just adjusts the rudder and the keel and the tacking of the sails as the ship just lurches downward to prevent it from capsizing or having people fall overboard, and just bounces up on the wave on the way back up to stabilize. And as the water again almost goes into a roiling boil in reaction to the sheer presence of life within it, suddenly realizes, hang on. And then Onyx, sensing the same thing, channels the primary essence of the benediction of the living ship towards the back of the boat, which means that all of the reaction violently is behind the boat, which means that it is propelling it forward. And now you have sort of discovered a way of making a screw drive ship or a motorboat or any other sort of self-propulsion boat, because now it is rocketing forward because the water wants nothing to do with this. It wants you out. Get out. Scram. So
I planned this? Obsidian says, like scratching his head.
I believe the expression Onyx says is we take those.
Yeah, we take those.
So the river crossing, while very hair-raising for everyone else as they're just kind of having to grab onto anything solid and hold on for dear life as they don't go over into the murder water, is remarkably quick. It just zips across the river, and there are shapes deep below the water as you realize, gazing over the side, if you have the both sea legs to do so without vomiting and also the urge to do so. Shit, this river goes deeper than it should. Like, way deeper. Like, way deeper. And that's definitely stuff down there. You don't know what, but that's shapes, and that's shapes that's moving, and that's shapes that seem to be moving in reaction to the boat going nearby. Like lazily drifting away or more alarmingly towards the boat, but you are going fast enough that these shapes, whether they are rising or moving towards, it's hard to tell how big they are, although it seems pretty big. Cannot catch up to the boat at this speed. And that is the advantage dice you are getting, is you do not have to deal with the entities that live within the river on your way out. So, after a, again, difficult to tell span of time, entirely too long for even most of the sailors, as they are starting to really just be like, I would like to. It takes a lot for a sailor to be like, I would prefer dry land right now, but it's really getting close to that for most of Obsidian's crew. They'd be like, maybe a dockside bar isn't that bad compared to this. But
It has either been 5 minutes or 2 months. We cannot tell.
Right as their morale is starting to shake, you can feel the keel of the boat just slam into the silt of the bank on the far side, and just jump upwards and just sludgingly shove a good 30 feet by sheer propulsion up the bank before the anchor gets dropped by Onyx to keep it in spot.
Ooh.
The underworld's always in 2020. Jesus Christ, how horrifying.
Since we have landed. After a bit of a moment for the blood to start to calm and try to settle back into its stagnancy, Repose will walk off of the side of the boat with exactly one freshly picked fruit from the ship's vines and just head up to the shore, stop a moment to be perceived by the shadows under the surface. Look firmly at them.
The
Yeah.
ones moving towards pause. They don't start moving back, but they pause.
And just slipping into his family's weird old realm that is well informed by quirks of the underworld. There. Now that is done. Now that is past. Now there is peace. And he casts the one fresh fruit into the water for whoever wants to be the first to try and grab an actual chunk of living
And
flesh and water.
as Repose turns away and walks away, everyone else sees the shoreline explode into black water, and now you can tell it's clotted blood, and deeper within is just blood. Not life-giving blood, dead, dried, nasty, left out in the sun, but still just barely liquid blood, as immense, half-dead looking, decaying river dragons start smashing into each other to bite this single apple that is smaller than individual teeth they have. They have completely forgotten about the crew.
And after... Not to take it... Time flows strangely here. We're in a bit of a cutscene.
Yes.
So after that, in turn, also has time to settle back into the resting quiet. Just give a bit of a clap of the hands. When we return to cross this way again, our ride is calm and our way is clear, then there will be a basket left each year above, beside this place. And perhaps in years to come, there may be more. And just leave that statement there.
The stillness of the river as you leave is almost as threatening as the explosion shortly before. Oh no, Onyx. Alright, phase 3 of the venture is another overland, this time uphill. Sunna, roll me another
Stepping into
finesse
the blood
navigate.
stank.
Oh, that's better.
Alright, yeah.
Finally, I feel both ways. Something I'm good at.
You're actually able to be confident enough to go maybe half a mile to a mile ahead of the rest of the group to do some scouting. And notice a couple of quirks. Again, this used to be much more violent floodplains, and you can see traces of that about where you would have expected it to be. But you're noticing other things as you are going up. First of all, your just innate instinctual lookout for, okay, flora, fauna, wildlife, etc. What are we looking at here? You're kind of off kilter as you were trying to adjust for presences that are not there, and then are suddenly surprised by presences that you did not expect in places that kind of make sense a little. There are almost no animals down here. And you recall distantly that it is because animals tend to not have enough emotional and spiritual fodder to have their soul do anything but just immediately get thrown back into the cycle of reincarnation. Animals that end up down here are usually animals killed as collateral as part of some intensely emotional event for humanity, so that makes the drowned goats along some of the riverbank make some more sense. And or they are direct sacrifices, which makes the dismembered and disemboweled birds that are still perching upon these skeletal trees and scrubland bushes as you are cresting the valley make a lot more sense. It is unsettling to see a sparrow that has had its ribcage opened and all of the internal organs literally scooped out, what you could tell by hand by the channels the fingers dug into the muscle along the spine and upper ribcage. Still singing what would have been a pleasant song if it still had lungs.
That's a pretty fucked up bird. Wonder if there's another one.
Yeah, that bird we crushed to
Yeah,
rout an army is probably hanging out somewhere.
Yeah, the augury
finally at the sorrow.
The augury bird is absolutely still in that garden, in the underworld. But so the thing that you were able to extrapolate from presence of bird is, all right, if there is a songbird singing, and this ghost is doing what it should be doing in life, it's following its instincts because it's an animal. It doesn't really have much aside from doing its script. Which means that if it is visible, present, and singing, it feels safe. It doesn't see that there's predators, and it is either trying to attract other members of its birds, or it is establishing territory, or any of the other number of things that songbirds sing for. It's actually a remarkably good sign, despite the really gory, dismembered nature of the bird, as you realize it's pleasant enough here that songbirds are willing to just be out on a branch and singing and not. I mean, it's a bird. It's gonna be vigilant and watching and scatter the moment it feels afraid. But it is usually a good sign in the assassin's business that the forest is full of noise and life, because that means that things that have not run away. The other side of it is, of course, if something is sneaky enough to not alert the forest, but that's a bridge you'll come across if it ever bites you in the leg.
That's not something you really plan for, yeah.
Hmm.
So
So,
I guess I could do some higher specs or something.
if you want to actually try reading that bird, give me a finesse sagacity.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Take some bird answer. I'll see what shapes I get.
So you very carefully approach the bird, and the bird is eyeballing you very suspiciously.
I just
And
want a little of intestine. That's it.
by eyeballing, I do mean literal, as in decay has taken enough of it that you can see the eyeball just kind of hanging in the socket, and being a bird, that is a remarkably delicate balance. And as you reach out, you are able basically to very carefully, instinctually almost, project your aura of wood essence to alert the bird of life, seeds, food. And the bird very carefully hops onto your finger. When you bring it in, you're able to look and see. Again, it appears that the bird was literally cracked open by hand and had all of the organs scooped out by hand. So most of the organs are gone. However, there are a couple that didn't get taken out. And
Is
from
this actually the bird that Repose crushed?
No, this is in the different area. And also, if there was that bird, it would be
It would be
literally,
paste.
it would be mostly paste with the head and the legs still intact, like Wile E. Coyote got crushed.
Okay.
It would be the full shape of the body of the bird, but as a homogeneous slurry of.
Yes.
It would be the grandpa cube.
It would be a living nugget.
Yes!
That is the ghost of that bird.
We have made the pigeon nugget. You examine in very carefully, and you rack your brain as you are trying to do examination. It looks like very deliberately the kidneys and the gallbladder got left behind in this bird. And doing that by hand with manual dexterity is incredibly difficult. This was a very practiced Haruspex that did this to this bird. And from the look of both the age of the bird and the fact that you have not heard of that as a practice anywhere remotely nearby any time recently, this is probably a very, very old ghost bird. This is probably a culture that got absorbed into the Fallen River Valley or was nomadic and moved on. This is an old foretelling.
So
And
Yang doesn't really give a shit about the gore, so he's just gonna go, a little decrepit baby bird, and then rub its chin.
it kind of nuzzles against you and then pecks at your finger kind of insistently, and then continues to peck at your finger insistently, and then bites and kind of twists. And unless you stop it, it's going to draw blood. Do you let it?
I'm gonna flick it in the forehead.
It
Knock it off.
it stops, and it just kind of goes back to just. It puffs up what feathers it can, which reveals again how much of the flesh is decaying off the bone and how much of the feathers are just kind of holding on by prayer and also not really operating on full logic anymore. But what you can tell from the remaining haruspice, just from your understanding of it, is that the kidneys, the left hand kidney looks like it was slightly scarred and diseased, and the gallbladder appears to have been bloated. So if you had been the Haruspex doing this reading, way back when, however long ago it was, this would have been a slightly ominous read. This would have been something is going on in the natural area that is making this bird ill. Not enough to kill it and not enough to severely debilitate it, but there is something. Whatever question was being forecast was answered with vibes not so great. Try again later.
I'm gonna put the bird gently down. Because I think if I try to release it like a normal bird, it will just deteriorate and fall apart.
It kind of does the little bird hop across the ground over to a scrub bush, pops up, and puffs up indignantly again before giving what you are now quite sure is a territorial call of just like, this is my bush, this is mine.
Yeah, fine. No, I'm not here to steal your fucking branches and your twigs. Little freak.
You get the distinct sense as you walk away that the bird, as much as a bird is capable of thinking it, is thinking, yeah, you better run. Yeah,
Let the bird have this one.
I pecked you on the finger, and then you didn't squish me, and then I got put back in the bush,
Making
and
me
now
the
I'm
victor.
scaring you away.
Yeah, no, the bird won. You won that one, buddy. You really taught me a lesson. Little dumbass.
You underestimated the bird.
So, go on.
I have something I want to offer up. It can be a replacement for whatever the final venture is or not, but
Go ahead.
I have an idea.
Mhm.
So at some point, Milan is just going to start talking with the party about the adventures they've been on, but it's always guiding in the direction of, hey, remember when we did that cool move, like when we snuck into the Amethyst Fortress?
Mhm.
It's always on the topic of us doing something sneaky. And
Surreptitious.
so, and in doing this, Milan is actually reaching into his pack and pulling out personalized snacks. Milan is going to provide food and then roll a social roll to inspire the party's morale.
You know what? I will say if this doesn't go well, this will go worse than the normal plan I had for the fourth roll of the venture, but I will let you do this for the fourth roll, and it does have a bonus if you do well.
I will never stop Milan from doing bad ideas.
So, and with the direction I'm going of talk about the times as over, remember when we're sneaky,
Yeah, and
is
also-
trying to influence the weather into being on our side as we get pumped for, yeah, we are sneaky.
Alright, finesse sagacity with a stunt and pray you don't roll badly.
Okay, first off is
What's the food?
personalized snacks. So it's all tied to what Milan knows about all of his friends and what they like.
You're probably also getting some assistance from the fruits growing from Onyx as well.
Absolutely. So morale boosting. So I am doubling 9s. And you said what roll?
Finesse sagacity with a stunt.
That's a guess. Yeah.
If we use our excellencies during this phase, are we going to be down motes for later?
This is travel phase, so no.
Okay.
I will let you know when mode economy kicks in for
9
combat
successes.
speed. Okay. Well, I said roll well, and you did. So as Milan is doing this and is deliberately, is almost certainly, if not consciously, then absolutely subconsciously doing sorceress motes into this.
Oh, absolutely consciously.
Yeah.
Milan always has a plan. Go ahead.
So Milan is familiar with I don't remember the actual name of the spell in the books, but I believe it's the great beast that stirs the sky. There is a weather manipulating spell that I had a long time ago that actually I believe Skin Man used to create the thunderstorm that was over Clay Bottom. And the way the spell works is that it summons great spider limbs from the earth to stir the clouds and create different weather patterns as necessary. As Milan is working, there is this strange feeling before Milan glances up at the sky towards the infinite dark above, towards the projected light stars. And you can see the stars shift as though the firmament below them was moving. Like grand continent-sized creatures were stirring. Not directly at you. There's not a sense of, like, I am calling attention to myself, but the essence flowing from the boat is, again, by far, it is a near lighthouse at this point of life essence, and now you are manipulating it and changing it and trying to weave a narrative and trying to change the stagnant essence of the underworld to follow memories. And you don't know if this is something that would normally be in the underworld or if this is drawing off your own memory. But you swear you see those same spider limbs for a moment reaching down through the dark to twist through the air before a heavy fog settles over the area over the course of about a half an hour.
Well, we have our cover.
Every once in a while, in the fog, when Milan looks up, there is an immense kind of contrail of, well, something immense just moved through the fog way up there and distorted all of the air, and I don't want to think about what that was.
And I don't need
Otherwise-
to worry because the story I've said is that we're cool, we're all cool, and we're going to sneak, and we're going to do this. Don't need to think about something above me.
Don't need to think about how this is working. Don't need to think about why this is doing something. Just keep going.
I got a B+ on my wild shaping test. I got this.
What is the underworld if not the wild of the dead people?
What'd you miss? On your test.
They grade you real heavily on grammar.
Huh.
There was also a open-ended worded question about define generic land, and all that Milan wrote was bullshit.
I was going to say penmanship counts, but I think Milan has good penmanship.
Now, all the equations related to the appearance of behemoths, Milan got those dead on.
Mm-hmm.
You think maybe your good penmanship is because of that test?
Oh, I've always had good handwriting.
Fair enough. What's that like?
Mia speaking? I wouldn't know.
I don't either. So, that is the fourth venture, which means that you are coming up to a large kind of... You can see the fog bank washing against it like an ocean, an outcropping of mountains that absolutely is not there in the upper world. And you can tell pretty immediately that was not here anywhere recently. This is too sharp. This is not eroded at all. This is a very deliberate sculpting of the land to just smash up a geological barrier. And beyond it, you can see the near impossibly tall looking spires, two of them, of what must be the Weaver's Mates. So, from what you remember of the map, and I will go back to that right now, and yes, I am keeping it on the Fame map because I'm not going to put in the effort of a higher effort one when I
We
have.
sure are approaching from the direction that has the Hecaton Kyre.
Ah, right. A goof I was going for last week that I didn't execute on. This is the map Milan drew.
Yeah, you are roughly, like, here, if not here.
Which also means we're in the direction where neither of the enemy armies are.
Yeah. If you had been from the west, you would have showed up probably around here, and if you had been from the east, you would have showed up through the mountain pass. Like the what I did not draw is this ring of mountains is all the way around, and you are technically still on the other side of the mountains right now. You have not crossed over into the plains with ya boy here or the Hecaton Kyre.
All right, let's go around this map real quick just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We've got not a dragon turtle on the right.
Yeah, this is the Worst Rider area.
Uh-huh.
This is Hungry Ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
This is Skeleton Army and the fortress at the choke point of the roads. This is the Hecaton Kyre, now that you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, near as you can tell, some batch of the Weaver's experiments he let just wander around outside.
Okay. Gunstrider. Fuck, that's a good name. Well, looks over towards Obsidian.
Okay, so of
Yeah.
these, of the beasties up in the corner here, middle one is miscellaneous biomonsters.
Yeah, they're hunters. I'm just gonna be up front. They're hunters from Resident Evil. And then Dagron is the Hecaton Kyre.
There we go. Labels.
Thank you. I was just getting that to myself. Do we see any of the other armies or anything mobilizing towards said armies?
Fuck you, Loon. You don't see any signs of the other armies yet. You do see, well, you're actually on the base of the mountains on the other side in a fog bank right now, so you can't see shit until you decide what you're doing about that.
I'd go up and take a look, but that would be a bad idea at this point. Obsidian, what would you suggest?
What would Obsidian suggest?
You could always roll a war roll.
I could always roll a war roll. Could always commit. One mote. Though I will not actually get any of the bonuses of this, but I am, let's say, storytelling wise, committing one mote for Mouse Conquers the Lion. Under the guidance of the Exalted tactics, a dozen good soldiers may stem the tide of an enemy legion.
That may be coming irrelevant. You don't know. I will say that keep that mote noted, as this is now when spending motes is going to matter for combat time unless I tell you otherwise. Because
Noted.
this is going to be hour by hour from now on.
So,
I'm making a war roll.
It is almost certain from what you know at the base of the mountains and looking at the doodled map from Milan of what the guy Gixa pointed out. This entire place is set up to be everyone comes in from the south. It is entirely meant to be a funnel for people to enter through the south, because getting an entire getting an entire army and its logistical train over the mountains or through the mountains is going to take either impossible exalted magic bullshit or an incredibly long time that gives them time to respond. So the standing militaries are almost certainly at the southern pass. However, given the age and the prowess and the sheer just, you don't get to be several thousand years old and be a complete moron about this kind of thing of the Weaver, as well as the Tyrant's assistants and whatever else military commanders and ghosts and war ghosts are involved, there's almost certainly scouts through the entire mountain. what level of scouting in force is going on is unclear. But there is no way in hell that they're just going, nobody's ever going to climb the mountains. That would be stupid. No. This is a world where people can punch a hole through a mountain. They are going to have scouting posts pretty comprehensively around it. So if you want to climb up and get a good look to evaluate, you're going to have to know that you are going to be dealing with some manner of resistance to either get past quietly or murder quietly.
Is the mountain solid stone, or is it mostly gravel or other materials?
Solid bedrock. It is
Bedrock.
like they basically punched a. It is like they punched a continental plate and up came the mountains.
If I get a little higher, I could probably find where most of the scouts are.
So I guess the forward question here then is, so of the points of interest waiting for us on the other side, we have our plan to try and steal the Gunstrider.
Mm-hmm.
So do we try to go around the bio monsters? Or... Alright, so other stuff to just think out loud here. So, seems like the man himself is just going to stay in the house and, stare at the ominous tube of bubbling liquid.
Mm-hmm.
Unless otherwise provoked. The question is, how do we want to efficiently, deal with stuff that is out here?
Mm-hmm.
We definitely want to avoid provoking the Hecton. That would be bad for everyone. Except maybe after we've stolen Gunstrider. Maybe then we could arrange for a Godzilla fight to break out.
Okay, and Angler's going to turn to Repose. What would you do if you were the evil guy at this situation, the person inside that house? What would you do if you saw us coming from the north, etc., etc.?
If you want to put this into a roll, I can let you go into a roll, or you can.
This is actually more asked towards the whole group, actually. How about
Mhm.
that? In case anyone has something I want to pipe up with.
Definitely thinking of putting this into more dice.
Mm-hmm.
Dice to be assisted by a couple of rounds of Repose, just in character, doing the snarl, grumble, have a think.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Tap into what he has collected from the family's tales of past encounters with the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
That
Munch
then
on
culminates in him drawing out from storage a puppet that he has built to brandish around.
Oh my god.
So if this makes more sense from a narrative perspective, this would have been something asked over the course of the story so that when we get here, we're not just sitting in the fog bank for an hour going, so what would you do?
There's
Yeah, no,
been time to do the planning all throughout the
Yeah.
trip.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do?
So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw a fortitude war, I guess, to
Mm-hmm.
have a think about how would this particular ghost go about conducting a defense of his home against these interlopers, these Philistines.
All right.
No idea.
That's a lot of sixes.
That's a lot of sixes. What did you do?
That doesn't feel right for Repose, I'm going to say. I'm going to give you the base information, but I'm not going to give you the expanded information because I'm not going to look at that roll and say no. Because that is double Satan. That's got to be something. So, From your
7
understanding,
6s.
the Weaver is actually pretty adaptable for a ghost. This is partially because you have almost 1,000 years of experience with your family dealing with him, so even by the slow time scale of ghosts changing, that's a lot of time to actually genuinely adapt and get unpredictable when
Ghosts are
your
prone to
major
falling
clashes
into
are multiple.
patterns. He has had time to collect a lot of patterns.
Yes. Even if he is going from a limited deck, when he has several hundred years to switch cards between major classes between him and your family, he's actually kind of hard to read. However, a couple of consistent things do come up through the clashes that your family has handed down. First of all, and what immediately fits the understanding you have via the scouting of the Fae, disposable chaff. He will not actually dirty his hands if he has anything to do with it. And preferably, he will actually get rid of other things he wants to get rid of. He's a very meticulous person in terms of repurposing what he considers a failure or a waste. So, these outer defenses that are not the local folk are almost certainly, I'm going to get use out of this somehow, and they might as well get use by killing the intruders. So, his first line of defense, if you get sighted, is almost certainly to get that army of cast-offs, in his eyes, who knows how actually strong they are in yours, to just mob you, is just a mass test of their ability. Maybe I'll get something useful out of the mass if they get out of this alive, etc. Who knows? So the first wave is almost certainly going to be, if you get seen, you get dogpiled. If you do not get back to being hidden again. If you do hit and run, you had an incident in your family's history where, upon realizing, okay, if we get seen, we get mobbed, and if we don't have the numbers to stand up to that, we can't handle that, so we'll do guerrilla warfare. He'll just ignore you. From his perspective, you can do guerrilla warfare for as long as you fucking want. He doesn't care. You could just sit there up in the mountain and play footsies all day because he's got all the time in the world. And in this specific situation, yeah, time is on his side. The more time you let him have to do whatever he's doing in his lab, the probably worse it's going to be for you once you get down there. So, a sneaky, meticulous, slow hit-and-run guerrilla war approach, while safe, also buys him time to do stuff, especially once he knows that you're here. It is almost a guarantee that he is not going to show up in person for anything unless it is abundantly clear that only his direct intervention is going to stop something majorly dangerous. However, once you get in the manse, and especially if you take out that war strider, there is a threshold that he has for, I am now interested in you. I actually want to see what you can do personally. Or he, as you said to Shireen, will come out and start to fuck with you. Maybe directly, maybe indirectly. And he will toy with you for a while, and that's probably where he's going to be most vulnerable. For a Deathlord's definition of vulnerable. The moment he realizes that there is an actual threat, he's going to step it up, or he'll just leave. Because again, from his perspective, fuck it, I'll just wait. I'll just do it again when you are all dead. So, the immediate term military approach that you can think of is to either literally charge directly into the bio monsters, because he's not actually going to do anything aside from go, well, that was what I was going to do anyway. They like, he might send over the War Strider, or the War Strider might walk over itself, depending on how autonomous its orders are. The other alternative is to be stealthy but very quick, and try to get in as fast as you can to put him off guard, at which point he might be impressed and then come out to see you personally. The other X factor here that you don't actually really know beyond your personal interactions is where and what Tyrant is doing. It is likely that he is going to stay in the labs and the occult areas to help with his part of the plan, as far as he is planning it, But how Tyrant is going to react to you being here, and whether or not he's going to just come directly out and try and murder you, or if he's going to hang back, is an unfortunately uncomfortable question mark.
Yeah, so I guess for Repose's part of the low results of the roll is he is fully in war mode, and so he is not directly entertaining much beyond the practical details that you've laid out of, okay, we could destroy these and not provoke much of a response. And on the other hand then, so to what extent does taking this out gain us anything? I don't think main suggestion I'm seeing then is that we try to rush the Gunstrider. Sneak on up to it, catch it off guard, jump it, because if we can seize it, then that opens up a lot of new options for us everywhere else in a way that flipping the bio monsters or somehow like going around to mess with the ghosts or the skeletons isn't as decisive.
Yeah. And I deliberately did not really talk about them to the south because of that's kind of the extended information, is planning on the other armies and how to support them. Repose is tunnel visioned right now as to how can I get my hands around a throne.
Well, what would evil Milan do?
Yeah, other players can feel free to
Oh boy. What exactly kind of role is that specifically?
Okay, Milan. That was a war fortitude roll. So Milan's currently thinking about, okay, what happens when our army clashes with their army? What's likely going to occur?
All right.
Milan, what if I, in the fictional context of being a skeleton lord, needed to defend my home from invasion in some kind of upcoming terrible war?
What if I
A skeleton
hypothetically
war involving no living people, some living people.
hypothetically I had to defend an emplaced redoubt, and hypothetically I had about as low a moral code as some of my hypothetical relatives? What would my hypothetical self do in that case? Well, first of all, you would sit back at the first clash, because you're not the commander, you're not the military person, you'd sit the fuck back and watch. You don't want to get your skin out there, you don't want to have your neck anywhere that it could get shot off. You don't know what their assets are, you're going to want to evaluate what they brought to the table before anything else, and that's what the expendable chumps out in front of the pass are for. The second thing is, hey, they're expendable chumps. If you have any sort of, we'll say, giant stomping war strider with artillery on it, or any other tricks up your sleeve that involve mass destruction, you would not give a single fuck about firing into your own forces to kill the other end, because what if they're skeletons, they're hungry ghosts, who gives a shit? I have them here under duress, or they have no mind of their own, and I'm going to be killing my enemy. That is one of the military strategies that you would immediately think of, and this is just like, I have infinite reinforcements and you don't. And I don't care about my forces and you do. Therefore, I can just do the Skaven thing of aiming my artillery directly into my own front line, and you deal with that. That is the big thing that immediately comes to you first, is that the Weaver is almost certainly going to be fighting as dirty as possible. He is going to not be personally involved, but the military strategy involved is going to just be utterly callous, utterly unconcerned with the loss of life on your own side, because not only are these not his good troops, he doesn't care about them at all. All he cares about is that the problem goes away, and if that costs him this entire pile of skeletons and monsters, oh well. What is that, 10 years to get them back? That's like, I take a nap and they're back.
Now, what he's not considering is what happens when he doesn't have this disposable resource, as say, I don't know, his piece of artillery fired early on his men before the opposing army arrived.
Yes, he is extremely... If you would identify one likely flaw in his current war footing, and you don't know if he has backups or not, but His current plan is extraordinarily complacent. It is entirely a sit back and watch and wait strategy because he is so utterly confident that, yeah, even if they get their asses kicked, I'm just going to be watching and getting intelligence anyway. So if something genuinely
Battle
unexpected
data.
happens,
Like, say,
battle, I have been trying to avoid saying the word battle data. And like
Never
half-
avoid saying battle data.
But yeah, no, he's genuinely just here to watch and to, like, if it costs him the entire outside defenses of his entire fortress to actually understand the strengths and weaknesses of his opponents, sure, he'll make that trade instantly. Because he's personally convinced enough in his own personal ability and the ability of his forces within the fortress that it's like, yeah, sure, whatever, what the fuck? I'll just come out and obliterate them if I have to.
okie dokie. If he's playing Skaven, we're playing Gene Stealer cults.
Ha 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 ha! Yes!
All right, let me grab my newly acquired codex.
Go on.
Let's see.
I specifically name dropped the fucking Warhams because I knew of this. Yeah, like, just directly, just very point blank. He is playing something between Skaven and Undead in fantasy, where it's just like, I don't give a fuck about my front line. That's
And
not
then
what
the
they're
stream
there
was
for.
struck down by robots for containing Games Workshop content.
No! First Alpha Brosa, and now they're going for Exalted. But yeah, like,
Okay,
he's using tar pit units, and all of his elites are way back where you can't see them yet. That's what his military strategy is right now.
from every angle. At the start of the first battle round, we can place one unit in strategic reserves, and we can deploy it one battle turn earlier. I'm not joking, but by I have a new codex.
Yeah, no, I didn't think you were.
So, okay, so jokes aside, what I'm getting at is we need to rush the Gunstrider as soon as possible, steal that, and then start blowing up his expendable defenses. So now he doesn't have anything expendable when our armies arrive, and now he has the problem of he's got an army on his doorstep.
You have put him in a position where he has to do something personally, rather than I want to do this because I'm playing around.
Okay, other factor that remains in play, the geomancy top side. We have, to some extent, an ability to disrupt the power flow to the fortress.
Yes, you do.
That would be the ideal lead-in to when we then set off that charge. We take
Yes.
advantage of the fact that he feels comfortable in his Doomhouse for as long as possible, and then after we've cleaned up what we can outside, that is when we pull the rug.
Yeah. You want him, from as far as you know, the moment he just basic, he is a Death Lord, but also, specifically him, the moment he goes from, he has 3 phases. I'm ignoring you, I find you interesting to mess with, you are a problem. The moment he rolls over into, you are a problem, you better have Sybil in the way, or something similarly huge, or you're fucking dead. You better have an overwhelming advantage by the time that he personally thinks that you are a threat, or you are in extreme trouble. You want him to underestimate you for as long as you possibly can. And because he's the Ghost of the Solar, it's not actually too hard of an ask. Even stealing the War Strider and blowing up his front line might only take him to, well, that's funny, I'll go mess with you now, rather than taking you seriously. It's like, oh, I didn't expect that. These people actually have a fight in them. I'm gonna go poke them, rather than, oh shit, this is an actual threat to my plan.
And of course, us stealing Gunstrider and firing on the ghosts is the distraction as we sever his fuel pump.
Mm-hmm.
As when he comes to start having fun, we stab his plan in the back. When he's not
Exactly.
looking.
Bradway, question.
Yes.
Can you still make the cloud?
Yes.
can we all ride on the cloud, or is there still a occupancy limit?
We can all ride on the cloud. It just doesn't go as far
Yeah,
or as
it is
fast.
still
It's not
it
as
is
fast.
slower now.
Is it still probably faster than most of us are without using moats?
In terms of like going up a mountain, yeah,
Or
absolutely. The
yeah,
problem,
just trying to get to. I mean, the
the
dumbest
problem,
thing.
the
Go ahead.
problem would be it is also the least subtle thing on Earth.
Yeah, but if we're going as fast as possible and such, if we get to the point where it's like, all right, subtlety is gone, it's just we need to book it to the Gunstrider. If we're all staying as a group, that's how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, individually, some of us can get there very quickly, but if we're gonna try to yank that Gunstrider, either we do this as a group or we're only throwing like 2 to 3 people at it as fast as possible.
It's
All right.
probably as fast as our more athletic Hearth members
I-
can run.
I would like
Yeah.
to put some dice to fishing for some information as Repose
Sure,
can
go
kind
ahead.
of steel himself and leverage the old archive mind mentality alongside just all of his prior training and experience with dealing with underworld weirdness and ghostery. I'm going to offer to roll Fortitude Integrity here to try and establish a sense of where we are in the schedule, even with respect to the, wibbliness of underworld time. How early are we versus when we should expect the armies to arrive?
Give me a stun and then roll.
Alright, so Repose, who is, good and mad and warmed up and active, but still in a show of his earthen nature, is very predictable in the ways that he takes initiative when he is stirred up. But he is also off guard, so there are a couple of moments while we're getting settled in here around the mountains preparing where Repose is about to launch off to do something and immediately recalls a past time he has acted this way and, being chastised or corrected, all kinds of various past ways that he has fallen down
Mm-hmm.
and prior mistakes he has made, and just establishes a bit of that resonance of self-reflection.
Yeah, just absolutely hold on, think about this.
Meditate on rollback. Draw his internal flowchart. Here is all the things I can do. Yes, they all converge on the same point. But the choices matter.
Yeah, so go ahead and roll.
Damn.
Man, Dicebot is not liking Repose today.
Mad lad does not want to think about the calendar.
Extremely mad. Like you
Only
are,
wants to rip and tear.
everyone.
Or-
Like it is to the point where the Hearthmates are beginning to get uncomfortable via the Hearth connection.
Okay,
of
hold
just,
on though.
Hmm?
Let me go and think about. All right, so since I am doing this while under the effects of unflagging vengeance, and this is something I am doing in pursuit of
That is
battle
true.
against my nemesis, I should be
That
able
is
to
true.
leverage my intimacy of hatred
Yes, you should.
into this focus.
You absolutely can.
Because more important than all of the ways that, it could go badly for him is all of the ways that fucker is going to be smug.
Yes, absolutely. You can leverage your intimacy here.
Let me confirm, yeah, so majors are worth 4, or worth 3. And I'm willing to also toss Excellency into this pool.
Mm-hmm.
And just note myself as down a mode. There we go.
There we go.
There's some activity.
So there is a moment of just deep, uncomfortable snarling through the Hearth connection before there is a breakthrough moment. As you just sit, think, force yourself through, just to reflect. Where are we? What is the timetable? What time is it? Where is everybody else? What timetable is he expecting? Because you realize, again, the scouting would be noting the arrival of the Vigil relatively soon. Which means that you could establish pretty easily the timetable of the militaries by looking where they are. But internally as well, without even looking, you are able to just think and go through the cycles of your own essence and the planning and the estimated speed of the Vigil and the estimated speed that you have tacked on as a guest to the Northfolk and the army of the Catholic. You are maybe a half day early, maybe a day. You have time to think, you have time to rest. If you go in right now, you will be spending a considerable amount of time on your own, to the point where you may be overextended. But it also means that you have plenty of time to cause chaos for the armies to show up.
Alright, that's about right to support, so move I am considering here is those of us who are most mobile just loudly pop over the hill and do a quick hit and run where we bust some biomonster skulls, because that's a very expected opening move that will draw some attention over here and reassure the Weaver that things are going according to plan.
I am a sniper.
Anything that makes him feel it's like the drawback of pulling off too big of a surprise move is if he becomes uncomfortable, then he becomes wary. We're advancing the threat track.
You go too high on his toying with you to murdering you scale. You need to lure him into, okay, everything is going my way, even if they're acting a little weird.
Yeah, if we make a good show of being normal within the context of what we're doing here, that can have the opposite effect. That can also draw a bit of miscellaneous other opposing attention up this way first.
Also, I just really want to give a shout out there. The spider limbs that I described are somewhat in that image, but holy shit, that landscape image Morgan just posted is amazing.
It's a good look. But yeah, so I feel like we just as a team pop over here, bust some heads, and while we are doing that, the rest of our crew is moving over this way to get ready to make our move on the Gunstrider.
And then maybe
we get back from hit and run on the biomonsters and immediately plunge into the Gunstrider.
yeah,
and, like,
use Cloud to accelerate.
Like, if the biomonsters follow us, oh no, a big swarm of meat is getting closer to the gun we're about to steal. We're going to draw attention and try to sweep as many targets of opportunity as we can towards the cannon, so that we can then get collateral damage to start happening over here.
Yeah,
Who
so
goes towards the Gunstrider then?
it's a good question, Mega Man.
That wasn't towards the Dungeon Master. Dude in charge. It's the rest of the crew.
Alright, so if we're making a split, Propose can fly on his own and definitely would be the expected one to show up and rattle some cages and do something loud.
I do think you and Obsidian need to be on that side.
I think Team Loud, so Repose, Obsidian, and possibly myself, go at biomonsters.
Do remember you have Shireen when you were planning on how to split.
Yes.
I agree Angler and Yang should go for the Gunstrider, because those two are the ones we've been talking most about trying to get in to hijack the thing.
Yeah, I should probably figure out what it looks like finally.
Yeah, Yang and Angler, since they are the core of the Gunstrider plan.
Go for Gunstrider, and then
I mean, a lot of me is like, fucking Angler really wants to punch some bio monsters, but maybe I'll get to do that later.
We'll bring bio monsters to you.
We'll have biomonsters at home.
So who goes with us then, if anyone? I mean, Shireen could also stay with the group to make it seem like there's more of us over there than expected.
I think Shireen should go after biomonsters, and then Milan will act as the getaway plan for Team Punch things.
Yeah, pop on Cloud and evacuate.
We can, interesting, because we could have it be that Shireen swapped the places with Old Man, so it still looks like there's 6 of us over here, and Weaver might not be going like, oh, where's that old... Oh, wait, no, they got someone else. Close enough. I was actually thinking about keeping her in reserve and not having her show at all, but I think this is a better idea to have show at least some of our force. Okay. All right, Yang, it looks like you and I are going to go have some fun.
Various crimes.
While we're sitting in the mist, do we feel the thing that's causing the mist to move above us? Like, can we sense it in any way?
Not really. Like, it is always one of those things where the most you get is if you glance up, you see the after effects of it moving. Like, if you were trying to actively sense or reach out to it, it's like, oh, there's nothing there. And then you glance back and it's the equivalent of, I just swear I saw something out of the corner of my eye.
Okay, other consideration here. I think we can agree that we'd rather not bring our live mortal crew forward toward the big gun.
Yeah.
So I think instead, part of how they deploy is somewhere more towards the bio monsters. They put in the legwork of like securing our exit.
Mm-hmm.
Of scouting out and clearing and getting kind of dug into whatever best provides a mountain pass for anyone who needs to walk in or out of the back of this place.
So Angler as a bodyguard while I basically secure egress and egress.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
How many people do we have along with us? Is it just Obsidian's crew?
It is
Obsidian's crew and
right-
the Grey Robes. So between them, like, 100 people.
Yeah. At least several dozen, probably 100 tops.
So it's the Grey Robes and Obsidian's crew? Was that what it was?
Yeah, Grey Robes, Obsidian's crew, and I'm gonna say probably volunteer detachments from the alliances that are willing to go down and actually be in the underworld, which was, of the scope of them, remarkably few, but enough to get you up to several dozen people.
And Obsidian's army undead crew is part of one of the major armies that's attacking, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
they're going
that's
to show
500
up with West Team.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
Obsidian's
Skeleton
former
Raiders.
detachment is going to be at least 500 ghosts, plus however many more the North Folk are providing.
Gotcha.
And then the Vigil is going to be thousands.
Okay. Yeah, then we definitely need to take... While it might be quote-unquote the better option to let the mortal crew show up first to draw attention, no.
No.
is unnatural. That's not what we do.
That is not how this Hearth works.
The
Also, I'm
Mortal Crew
pretty
are
sure
going to set
Obsidian
up
would
the
put your head on a
barricades that we
spike.
can fall back into. They're going to get comfortable, keep watch. They're going to be ready to signal and raise alarm. Best thing they can do is be more eyes. And then also, like, mortals versus miscellaneous bio monsters. If they're on the defense and in, good terrain.
And they have
cover.
Onyx helping them as a
And they have
magical
Onyx.
artifact boat.
Yeah. Onyx
That
has-
is-
Yeah, we need to portage Onyx into somewhere where we can drop them and just have them be a fortress.
Yeah, that is going to be. They're going to be attacking uphill in a mountain into a artifact fortress full of 100-odd people. That's pretty good odds for mortals against miscellaneous underworld biomonster.
Especially after the biomonsters have already had a chunk taken out of them by
Yep.
our crew.
A fortress that has a cannon.
It is likely to have casualties, possibly fatalities, but it is going to be wildly in the defense's favor.
We are at Doomhouse. That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, install boat in favorable position in the hills. Jump over the hills and punch some biomonsters. Once we have them good and riled up, disengage from biomonsters and go do a heist.
Yeah, lure them
Steal a
angrily
turtle.
into the fortress and then heist the War Strider.
Will we have enough time to rest if we take care of some of the scouts before we do this thing? So that we can get the boat into the hills without being noticed.
Unlikely.
Okay.
It is a situation where if the scouts don't report, that is going to be a situation where more scouts are like, hey, where the fuck did they go?
Okay. Yeah.
That'll be
More
a...
scouts, it's a
You will
temporary-
have time if you do that, but it will cascade the problem.
Gotcha. Okay. Just I'm looking down my list of charms and just making notes here.
I think we should be conveniently visible.
Yeah, concealment isn't much of a concern for, because step one of this is performing a feint, so we do need to be seen doing this.
Also, even if Angler and Yang are spotted, we're going to be probably taking out a couple scouts on the way just to keep our way as quiet as possible. So it's being honest, oh, they're clearing the back way. They might not realize what we're doing.
Yeah, you two as quiet team will be able to sneak very capably.
Yep.
As you get into your forward position. So yeah, probably creating a situation where you two on your own will start the engagement of the Gunstrider, and then the rest of us will be able to drop in after some amount of delay.
Okay. Is there a water path towards Gunstrider?
Now, how much internal blood is there? Is there a moat around the Doom House?
There is a rough moat around Doomhouse. It is not connected to external water sources, and there are puddles of blood throughout the valley within the mountain range.
That's also going to be the stankest of water, so...
Yeah, that is going to
The
be
worst blood.
extreme danger water.
That's full of sharks. That's shark water.
I could get through it.
Yes.
It would be bad, but
It
I
would-
don't think I could take Yang through with me and not have it be a really bad experience. Also, I did the blood thing once. I don't want to do it again.
Yes, I think those bullet points stand then. Boat into hills to become a fort. Punch the biomonsters. Do the heist. That is our phases of this operation.
All right. I'm going to say
Everyone agrees?
that. What'd
If
you say?
everyone agrees.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm going to say that the Biomonsters section is not even going to be a combat. That is going to be a quick roll. But after that, the War Strider is probably going to be most of a session combat, because that is first of the last chain of boss fights. So, as a preview, let me switch over. We can assume that once the crew... this is just kind of a skip forward to give me an excuse to show something. Once the proper assault begins on the enemy, and scouting is in place with the Angler and Yang, you are able to look down upon the valley and see for yourself the enormous skeletal beast that has been plated with soul steel, that has been clad with jade. This once holy artifact that has now been twisted and warped into this consuming abomination with the fire wand out from within it. You were able to gaze upon it. You were able to see. It is pretty fucking big. Next time, the Chthonian Chelonian.
big.
All right, I'm back. What's the plan?
Go get him.
Next
You got it.
time,
You
we
got it,
gonna
boss.
get him.